Oh, G5 is not hanging. I was like, wait, that
Yeah,
pawn's
don't back rank yourself with rook takes f8.
Oh
my god, I just called it. Oh my
It's
gosh, I
commentator's
just called
curse.
it, and with it, the backbreaker. And the next round of the Speed Chess Championship will be underway momentarily. As we can see, everybody, the bracket in front of you tells you exactly what you need to know so far with the 3 matches that have gone down, but I know I speak for my partner here when I say that we're pretty excited for today's match. Robert, Leinier, Dominguez Perez versus Maxime, Vachier-Lagrave. The Frenchman with 3 names, the Cuban with 3 names. These guys are the top 2 rated players on Chess.com right now as we speak, and they're both ready and waiting. How pumped are you?
Danny, I was about to say I'm super excited for this matchup because I think it's going to be the most level of the ones we've seen thus far. Of course, the earlier matches were quite lopsided, headlined by Hikaru Nakamura defeating Yifan, and we saw Wesley So last time just crush Wei Yi, though. It seemed like the low-rated players had some good chances, spoiled in time trouble. Now we'll see LD, Leinier Dominguez, versus MBL. And I think that you should not underestimate Dominguez, a former World Blitz champion, clearly showed his prowess at defeating the French in the qualifier. He beat Georg Meyer game after game in the French defense. So we'll see if he can also beat a French citizen in this one.
Yeah, well, as you can see, everybody in front of you, the stats that, of course, we attempt to put together as we evaluate these players and all of their performances, do have Maxime as a pretty... not necessarily pretty big favorite, but a favorite on par with the way we saw, I guess, Aronian favored against Caruana. But I don't know that really does this matchup in terms of how a lot of people see it justice. I agree with you. I think this is going to be very close. Obviously, we know Maxime Vachier-Lagrave just getting back from the Biel Chess Festival. Dominguez Perez has been chomping at the bit for his opportunity to get involved in the Speed Chess Championship. We'll keep you updated, of course. You can see right there the current scoreboard doesn't show us anything because the match hasn't begun yet, and we've got the odds to win the match based on the stats right there, and we'll see how those graphs play out because people love shiny graphs. Robert, I don't know if you got that memo, but we have both the players here with us now. Maxime sporting his Lyon jersey. Dominguez Perez sporting his very, very impressive list of books behind him. I'm sure there's a few leather-bound books there as well. And you and I are ready to rock. The players are ready to rock. Without any further ado, I believe the games will be starting in just a moment. So, Robert, and as I say that, the games have begun. Here we go. We got E4. What do you think? Surprised by that or no?
Not at all. I think that we'll see plenty of Berlins in this one. Well, at least I wouldn't be surprised if we do. And here we see Knight f6. And I wonder what Maxime is going to play here because he can play d3 and go anti-Berlin, or he can just say, you know what? Oh, and there's d3 just as I'm speculating. He plays d3. He doesn't want any of these mainline Berlins where, Dominguez is quite a beast in it. So far, both players moving quite quickly, but in particular, look at Dominguez.
Yeah.
He spent not even a second for this entire game. So
yeah,
clearly
it's almost as if he expected this type of approach from his opponent. So interesting stuff.
I mean, this is actually very impressive to me, the fact that he's playing this quickly. I mean, this
Yeah.
is well known. It's not like he's playing anything novel at this point either side, but he's realizing that in the bullet segment, I think we can say that MBL is the favorite.
Right.
And in admitting that, he understands that in any blitz game, he can't get himself into too much time trouble, or else he realizes that will favor Maxime. And so what he's doing is he's playing very quickly out of the gate to make sure that he has as much time as possible. And so in this position here, this has all been played before. You could take on b5 instead of taking on e4, but taking on e4, I think, leaves the symmetry in the structure, and that should allow white an easier game without the tactics. And considering how quickly Dominguez has been playing, I think is a very good practical decision by Maxime here. So, Black can trade queens and play b4. That's certainly an option. Black can play bishop e6 just to make sure that the rook on a8 isn't a problem. He does take on d1. And now he can still play bishop e6, Dominguez, and he plays b4. So
yeah.
Doesn't want to have anything happening down the a file.
As as you have mentioned, the time management, I mean, so far both these guys have played lightning fast. And we just talked about the last match between Wesley So and Wei Yi being one where Wesley So, a very principled player, played a lot of mainline theory. He was even repeating his own games from super high-level elite tournaments. And with these guys here and both of them being elite grandmasters for the better part of a decade at least, you expect to see the same. Maybe these guys challenging each other in main lines, and I think especially with Dominguez Perez feeling like he's a bit of an underdog, he's not going to be holding anything back here at the chance to beat Vachier-Lagrave and move on.
Yeah, he definitely wants to defeat him, and that's the thing about Dominguez, the qualifier. It's easy to overlook him, but he's so strong. I mean, everyone knows this. All the top players respect him tremendously.
And don't forget, Hikaru Nakamura predicted Dominguez Perez will pull the upset over Maxime today.
Oh, I guess I forgot that, but you're right. He did say that. And, well, in this first game, everything's looking perfectly fine for Dominguez. He could have played knight a5 instead of rook b8. I actually preferred that move. I don't particularly like allowing white to play a5 himself. Mm-hmm. Here, maybe it's not that big of a deal, but a5 is a twofold idea, and he plays it. One is to go bishop a4 and pin this knight. The other is to play bishop e2, and that pawn on a6 is cemented. It's stuck in its tracks, and can become quite a target here.
And this is a common positional idea for white in these Spanish games where the play becomes all about the pawns on the queen side here, this a5 move. But I'll play devil's advocate then. So the main thing is that rook b5, how does rook b5 fail? Because the question is on rook b5, if you play bishop a4, perhaps I just take a5 and your bishop is pinned to your rook.
Right, you can take on a5 with the rook, and then perhaps I move my bishop out of my dark square bishop to e3, but yeah, then you play bishop d7. So you might be right that rook b5
was an idea.
Is definitely a worthwhile idea. In fact,
well, he didn't go for it, but I was wondering if maybe that was part of the reason why a5, being such a strong positional and common theme in these Spanish games to cement the a6 pawn, as you said, maybe wasn't as good there. But okay, Sebastian Leinier decides this is not the right approach, just puts the knight on a7. Now he'll probably play bishop d7 and offer the exchange.
Yeah, I wonder after bishop d7 if MBA will try knight h5 there to try to distract the knight from f6, where it protects the bishop on d7, and that way you can see a trade on the f6 square. So essentially, bishop d7, knight h5, bishop takes a4, knight takes f6 check, g takes f6. And the real question is if that pawn structure, that sort of compromised pawn structure.
Say that line again so I can show the fans on the analysis board.
After bishop d7, white plays knight h5, and then black takes on a4, white takes on f6, g takes f6, and rook takes a4 there. I'm just trying to evaluate how that sort of pawn structure, even though it looks to be bad because it's double pawns there on the king's side, well, it doesn't leave the e5 pawn very well defended. Right. It's not that easy for white to make progress.
Well, I think one of the main themes of that position is that maybe this rook from a4 slides over to c4, and perhaps that's another reason why white might have a small edge there. I agree with you. I don't think the f-pawns will be the critical weakness, but here we see Dominguez Perez going into his first real think of the game, and I would bet you that he's calculating exactly Bobby Hess's line here with bishop d7, knight h5. Shout out to our first gifted sub of the day, Nathan F314, showing Georg Meyer the love. Chess Bay's here, G Moves is here, Chess Guy. What's up, party people? Thank you for being here, everybody, all 1,100 of you, and we've just gotten started. So sorry to those who I didn't get to shout out to earlier who said hey, but thanks to everyone in the Twitch chat and Chess.com TV. We love you.
Yeah, Denny, while you were giving all those shout outs, Dominguez still has not moved.
Yeah.
I'm a bit concerned about that. I guess his other option really is rook e6, but of course bishop d7, it's the most logical move, and we've talked about this in every speed match we've covered thus far. Sometimes you just have to play quickly, right? You just, bishop d7, you're calculating the consequence of knight h5. This isn't a classical time control game, and both players have their head in their hands, by the way. So that's interesting. They're both calculating in the similar fashion, but knight h5, I really don't think that's a big deal. You just take on a4. Eventually, your rook will come to b3 for black. And once that rook comes to b3, you're attacking the c pawn.
Well, Maxime decides he agrees with you, and I actually really like that decision there because even though we always say don't trust your opponent, Robert, he was clearly calculating bishop d7 probably while Leinier was thinking, right? A player of Maxime's level is certainly going to work hard on his opponent's clock, and he just doesn't spend a lot of time trying to test the waters with knight h5, uses his minute advantage on the clock to just quickly play a very logical developing move. And I just feel like from a practical perspective, I really like that choice by MBL.
Yeah, definitely, and he's moving quickly. That's a very key to this position right now is the fact that MBL is up a minute and a half on the clock. It's a approximately a level position, I'd say. And by that, I mean that both sides have chances, not that it's a dead draw. So, but the fact that MVL is up so much in the clock, that leads me to believe that white is better from a practical point of view. But on the position, right, if I'm going to be objective here, I think black is doing very well to hold off white, because where are the weak squares? C7 is very hard to get to. The knights cover C5 and C4. No rooks are coming there. E5 is well defended with a knight on D7.
Yep.
From white's perspective, right, I'm looking at that A5 pawn like, well, that can become a weakness if rook B5 ever happens. C3 can become a weakness if knight B5 happens, hitting that pawn. Especially, I don't want to push it particularly badly because the B4 square can be taken over as well. So I would start here with a move. I mean, you have several options from black. You can play, let's say, rook E to D8. Your rook's not doing anything on E8.
You could also play, sort of tickle on the B file here. Start with rook B5 or rook B7. And my point is, there's several squares along this B file that at some point, whether it's B2 to C2, or if the knight moves from D2, you might go into B3. I like rook B7, just very simply threatens to create a battery on the B file, double the rooks, and sort of ask white what he intends to do. And now we know. But again, I'm looking at the clock that despite Dominguez Perez, who I think will prove he can stay on the board in the opening and middle game theory against the best players in the world, the question is, will he be fast enough consistently? So I'm worried about that 40 seconds right now.
Yeah, it's a great question. Rook B4 is a very good move because C5, then C6 was the big threat, forking the rook on B7, knight on D7. Rook B4 not only gets out of that threat, but attacks the pawn on C4 directly. And then the E4 pawn, if you ever play C5, can become a target. Not to mention that
you could play C5 now, though, because the pawn is to protect it twice. But yes.
Yeah, then I'll just move my knight away, and then your C5 pawn will become a target. So right now, look at Dominguez is trading pieces off, and he's saying, look at your pawn on A5. If we trade on the B file, I take with my knight on B8, play knight C6, and I'm going right after your pawn on A5. And you can't even go C5 here for white because knight B7 hits both of the pawns. You'll have to play knight B3 to protect both, and then knight C6 comes again, and your A5 pawn or your C5 pawn will be lost. So actually, black is much better. I don't even see
Did you eat your Wheaties today? You are calculating a mile a minute, partner. I love it. Thank you for bringing the A game.
Well, when it's Endgames, it's just I get into my flow here.
You get a little tingly, huh?
Yeah, I feel good about it because that's the sort of the classical player in me.
Yeah.
And well, right now, actually, white has no means of protecting the A5 pawn because you can't move your knight from D2 with the C4 pawn hanging. If you play C5 and knight B3, as I mentioned, black will play knight B7 and then knight C6, and you can't protect C5 and A5 simultaneously with that bishop.
So how do you come up with a creative defensive resource? So he plays king f1. I guess what he's saying is, I'm going to lose the A pawn, but here comes king activity before you get yours out. And that's, the right practical, I guess, move here for white. It might be his best chance to draw.
Well, this is going to be very tough. It's a 10-second time advantage. So the time has sort of leveled out here, and it's becoming a bullet game. But it's a bullet game where black has a clean outside pass pawn, and that's actually really difficult to defend against. Yes, maybe in a classical game, white can have hopes of holding.
Right, but now he's just being pushed back, especially in blitz. Very fast play right now from Dominguez Perez. I expect knight c3, and he'll let him take on e3 if he wants it. Same point, because the pawn on e3 actually kind of protects the d4 square, maybe helps. But the problem is that means the e4 pawn is a potential target down the road now.
Right, knight d6 hits both pawns.
Here comes knight c3, which is why I said that first. But knight c3, knight takes c4, knight takes a4, knight takes e3 check, and g2 falls. So wow, MVL's in trouble here.
So I think there was an opportunity to play a3 there. Tactically, it worked, but
for black instead of knight takes c4, I agree.
Yeah, well, instead of knight back to b6 to begin with, this still looks very good. There's no easy way for white to go after this pawn. Ooh, I didn't like that. You should have knight a5 because there's no king b3 if your knight's on a5. So I thought
this is a nice move by Maxime. He's saying, look, I'm fighting for a draw here. I know that, but if I can win c7 and a3 before you gobble up all my kingside pawns, I have a pretty good chance to draw.
Very nice by Dominguez. Knight a5 check and c6 here. So play h5 and then g6. Good move by Dominguez. G6 next, that way you don't give up the h-pawn, and e3 falls after that. So g6 coming next move, white's lost. Very well done by Dominguez. Very
well done. I mean, seriously, right? And again, you and I predicted regularly that even though Dominguez Perez, who's been trying to qualify to get into the Speed Chess Championship for years, we often predicted that if he could just get into a match against one of the best players in the world, he might be somebody who could actually knock one of them off, whether it be MVL or even a guy like Hikaru, because he's played at the highest levels over the board. He's a former World Blitz champion, and his experience in terms of preparation, in terms of being able to challenge these guys in lines where he really could get an advantage. I mean, that's not something that some of the guys that have qualified have ever necessarily played at that level, right? Is that fair to say that people shouldn't be surprised? I see some comments in the Chess TV chat saying they want to root for the less famous person, being Dominguez Perez, and I'm like, he's pretty famous in the elite chess world. But
he's a well-known player, and I definitely agree that, well, first of all, he might not win this game right now. He's lost his second G-pawn. He still has one remaining.
But still, the C-pawn and the G-pawn, this is just too many pawns for Maxime
now take
to
on
hold.
C3.
And then G5 and G4 at some point here. This is too much.
Yep. This is winning. Yeah, he finally.
And he does.
But I agree with you. Your earlier point, though, about Dominguez is a monster. And so people may see ratings, see predictions, that he might be the underdog. I don't really consider him an underdog. Yes, right. I think MVL is the favorite, so I guess I should clarify. But I don't see him as we've seen the other matches where I've known for a fact that the higher seeded player is just much stronger. Or I guess actually Fabiano against Aronian, Fabiano was the higher seed, but really didn't work out for him.
Right. He was the higher seed, but not according to how we sort of matched these players up and predicted how they would handle the format of the Speed Chess Championship, despite having a higher rating on Chess.com. But anyway, I think this is going to be a fascinating match. I'm excited for the next few hours because I remember us specifically having a conversation last year about those who qualified in the Opens to get into the Speed Chess, that if a guy like Dominguez Perez could ever get in, don't be surprised if he went farther than the first round. So, going to be fun today. And shout out to everyone who's with us. Remind you again that you can follow the games yourself at Chess.com if you are into doing that sort of thing, or just stick with us right there at Twitch or Chess.com TV, wherever you're comfortable. And the prize fund, anything donated today by all of you, the fans, if you like what you see, show the players the love, goes directly to the players. The starting prize fund for the open rounds, as you see, is already at $2,000, but anything earned today goes directly into their pockets. So here we go. Robert, now Sebastian gets white, and he's better. He's already better again, so here we go. Yeah,
I think that Maxime has done everything correct with the black pieces here. White has a little bit more space. It's hard to do something active for black, and I think it's a very good strategy for Dominguez, especially against, stylistically, someone like MVL, who loves to be active, who, he's not the type of player who just wants to sit, relax, and make a draw. He's definitely a more active type of player. And so with the black pieces here, there's nothing really MVL can do. He's sort of sitting and waiting. And not that his position is bad at all. In fact, if the rooks get traded after rook e8 coming next, I don't really see how black is expected to lose that game. But the point at large is Sebastian, that's Dominguez, he's not forcing the issue at all. He's just playing good moves, making them pretty quickly. And I think that as time goes on, and especially if MVL starts leveling the score or making wins of his own, then we might have to see Dominguez change his style, because it worked against the likes of Meyer and against Ludwig Hammer, but it's not going to work the same way against MVL, because MVL is just a stronger player. So we'll see. And in this endgame, the question is, who's going to push their c-pawn first? Is black going to play c6, or is white going to get to play c5? And the answer could be both. I mean, sometimes the move c6 by black is met with c5 by white. Those are the tactics that you have to start calculating. I think c5 is a very interesting move here for white, saying, I'm going to try to force through a passed pawn.
Yep.
And you really have to start calculating these things, because it changes the pawn structure. If I play c5 as white, I'm saying your pawn a5 may become a clear target. And I wonder if black should have played c5 instead of c6. That's something that I will think about as I start talking about this dynamic. But if white's playing for a win, and it seems like Dominguez is, he played c5. So now d takes c5. Okay, so what's going on here? If I take on b6, you take with the knight on b6, and then the pawn on a5 can be captured, but there's bishop d2 ideas. That's going to be really annoying. So I'll take on b5 first, and then play for bishop d2.
We're going to find out. He might be going for it right now.
Yeah, I think he's going to take on b5. But I guess you could take with a knight on b5, because then f6 is also hanging.
But there's still tactics with bishop d2, and then whether the knight moves from f6, the knight on a5 might have a hard time coming back because the c file's open and c4 controlled by black.
But bishop d2 is met by rook d1, I think. It's I'm just going to bring my knight back to b3. That actually still looks like black should find equality there.
Yeah, because a4 is hanging and there's just too many things to deal with here, right? I mean, even if you just move the knight, I guess the real danger is you have to be careful if you move the knight from f6. Don't ever fall for some sort of back rank problem with the bishop on the long diagonal.
Right. And yeah, knight f5 was just played, and knight takes a4 being the threat. If you play rook a1, then black just plays rook a8 and takes on a4 the next move. So it looks like this one's petering out into a draw. And our stat guy, Mike Klein, says that both Caruana and Weyi had brief leads in their matches.
That's right. So he's trying to tell us don't get too excited about Dominguez-Perez's first win. Is that the point, Mike?
Yeah, I guess we can't make too much of that win. It was an instructive technique by Dominguez, and it does sort of illustrate how good he can be.
Yep.
But that is a good point. This is a long match. We're only in the first time segment. We've only played one game. But I do expect these games to go quite long.
Yep.
They both can be grinders at times.
Okay. Well, let's see how he deals with the knight on a5 and pawn on a4. I mean, it looks like everything should simplify into a draw in this game because despite the weird tactics, I don't think either one of these players blunders mate with this much time on the clock, and likely it will just peter out.
Yeah, if I'm Dominguez here, just go knight c4, knight a to c4, and say, all right, if you take on a4 with your knight, then I'll put my bishop on a1, and then you play bishop g7. There's just no pieces remaining for anyone to even kind of try to stir up a win. But yeah, here, rook e8 check played. All right, so he's trading off the rooks in this manner and saying, no more pieces left. Knight f6 check, trade everything. Dead.
Simplification killed the cat. I believe.
And actually, this position was particularly easy to show that there's equality, but that is something that some lower-rated players and less experienced players can learn from, is that when it's going to be a draw and you're down 2 minutes on the clock and your opponent can get into no harm, just force the draw. Don't dilly-dally, don't prolong the game, because that actually ends up typically backfiring. So it didn't really matter in that position, but going forward, it really could. In a match like this.
Well, and it's also just recognition of there's time to push for a win in different games in these matches, and there's times when you see the writing on the wall and quickly move to the next game. Okay, this early in the match, it's not that relevant. I think there's plenty of time in the total game clock, but of course, those who've followed this type of match regularly know that you do have unique situations where people are rushing to finish a game to make sure that the overall time clock, you can see it's at 70 minutes right now, doesn't run out on them if they think they have, or if they need to come back in the match score or whatever that is. So I think it's a good practical decision to not waste time in positions that you know don't have a lot of opportunities to win.
Yep. And right now, Dominguez is thinking, but he has to take on g3.
Yep.
And he does. And
this
h6.
is okay. This could be a fun one if Maxime decides to castle long. Probably here he doesn't, but
yeah, I mean he would like to, but the problem is g4 is exceptionally difficult to get in with a knight on f6 and a bishop on c8. And the problem is when you don't have double g pawns, a move like g4 can be a worthy pawn sacrifice. When you do have double g pawns, you're just giving away a pawn because you haven't opened the file for your rook. So it's looking very solid for black here, and Dominguez is just proving that maybe it's a little bit an offbeat opening with the London system by MVL, but he's ready for
anything. He's ready for the gauntlet today. Yeah. Both players looking just super focused, super serious to start this match. So, all right, now the transition here is interesting because if the trade on d5 and c4 happens, you have a 3-on-2 for black very quickly, recognizing the potential for a majority in the endgame. I mean, again, I'm looking at this saying that white has gotten nothing out of the opening, just like Maxime faced in the Spanish. So he switched from e4 to d4, but still seems like he's running up against a very well-prepared, very quick-moving Dominguez-Perez here.
Yeah, this is already looking
better for black, if anybody.
Yeah, I mean, you can now choose how to take on d5. You can even take with the rook on d5.
Yeah.
Because if it's a bishop c4, you can just play rook d6.
But knight makes the most sense. You had the threat on b4, so white played a3 to stop it.
Yep. And now let's see, how does black kind of figure out how to press forward? Because the pawn on c5, it's well defended for the moment. It can be a bit of a nuisance to defend continuously as the game progresses. I might play a move like queen e7 just to get my queen off the c file.
Right.
That way I can avoid any b4 ideas.
And there may be tactics where you're immediately threatening a move like c4 because of the potential pin.
Yeah, that's true as well.
So I like queen e7 as well. Dominguez taking time here for whatever reason that is, perhaps trying to come up with his ideal setup. But when you look at a position like this, you just have to like black because of the 3-on-2 everybody, especially given that white's pawn structure on the king side is really nothing to be excited about at all.
And I actually like this move a6 because you'd never want to play b6 as black in the structure because even before playing a6, the bishop will go to a6, kick your rook from the c file. But with playing a6, your next move is to be b5. And you mentioned white can't play a4 to let the knight go to b4. So a6, rook d1, and now the question is b5 too soon, right? Is that a move that gets your position to improve because you're advancing on the queen side, you can play c4 later, or can there be drawbacks where you've overextended your queen side and allows white to start kind of hitting it with moves like a4 later in the game, or your c5 pawn becoming weak? So he chooses knight e7, which I think ultimately is a good decision. It's non-committal.
Yeah, patience.
Showing very great patience here is Dominguez.
Okay, but Maxime is going to try to challenge that it was the right decision. One thing to consider is that he can meet c4 with the move knight d4 here, Robert. The pawn on c4 is pinned. The bishop on e6 is attacked. Maybe that's the idea that Maxime sees.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I'm super concerned about you taking my bishop on e6. So if you go c4, you go knight d4, you go b5.
I think he'll go for it. Okay.
And so I guess I can go bishop g4 here. That's something to consider as well, because if you play f3, your pawn on g3 is hanging.
Okay, so he plays b5 like you said, but I guess from my perspective, yes, you've cemented in the pawn on c4, but I'm liking that maybe I have at least some practical chances now on the light squares, given the exchange that happened and the fact that I still have the bishop. But all right, I agree. I think black is the one holding the cards here. This pawn is just too strong on c4. But don't blunder into an endgame where somehow these pawns on a6, b5 become issues for the light square bishop.
Right, that's actually a great point, that if all the pieces are traded off, let's say we just remove queens and rooks right now,
right,
the a6 pawn can become an immediate target, especially if the white king runs to the queen side. But I love Dominguez's decision to start trading the rooks off the board, because what white needs is to have some piece on the board, switch the places of the bishop and the queen. If the bishop were on c2 and the queen on e4, obviously there would be some sort of queen h7 check ideas, which don't even actually look that menacing, because the king goes to f7 and the knight on e7 is such a great defender. But without any of the heavy pieces, without the rooks, that has absolutely no threat, because you can't follow it up with anything. So what Dominguez is doing is offering the exchange of the rooks, and if he can take over the d file, he's got this passed c pawn, and well, now it's only black can be playing for a win here. So king f7, just get your king. Okay,
it brings the queen up. I think one thing he's considering is how to get the knight in the game. Maybe the one idea behind queen d6 is at some point you have to watch out for shots like a5, because a3 is under the scope of the queen.
Right.
And maybe that's something we'll actually see right away. I think queen d6 might have had that idea.
Oh, and he plays knight d5, so I think he's actually going to put his queen on e5. So his idea is just play knight d5, queen e5 next, threaten things in the c3 square, and if you take on d5, well, then when I could probably just take with the queen even, but getting your bishop off the board is actually a huge advantage for black. I mean, it helps black's case. So queen b2 played to stop that very threat of queen to e5. And if you're black, the question is, where does your knight belong? Do you play knight f6 here, and that's just played?
I'm wondering if I can pop into b7 and start to poke around over there on the light squares.
Yeah, you can definitely go to b7. I think I'll go queen b6 probably, and just...
Well, you have queen d3 check, which frightens me a little bit, and that's probably why he kept the bishop on this diagonal.
Yeah, queen d3 check is actually very annoying, especially with my c pawn running after it. And so now I guess king f7. I wanted to do that earlier. Black has time. It's not like white can start... the king can't go to the d file without trading queens, so king f7 played. And I think white can only shuffle back and forth. And so Dominguez...
The question is there a way for black to pop a pony in an effective way, right? I mean, you said white's going back and forth, but is knight g4, knight e5, coming into d3 a threat? How does black create a second target that sort of breaks down white's blockade here?
That's a great question. I think you play queen d5 at the right moment to attack the pawn on g2.
Okay.
And the reason why the king to f7 is so important is you want to keep the d file under control. So if you bring your king over to e7 next and then play queen d5, you really are threatening to take that pawn on g2.
Okay, interesting. And Maxime maybe anticipates this and says, I'm not going to sit around and wait. I'm going to offer the queen trade. That frightens me if I'm white. Taking the queens off the board feels like it just maybe makes things really easy for black to play king e7, king d6, come into d5. Can I really hold this if I'm white?
Looks like a very tough defensive task, especially because that bishop's on b1 and cannot get to b7 like you.
Yeah, and I love this move knight d5 as well because, I mean, one thing that's really simple is that if you bring the bishop to e4, you're probably not even threatening to ever take on d5 if you're white because that king and pawn ending has to be winning with such a strong protected passed pawn on c4.
Yes, and the point is that and this is why black played the move h5 is to eventually go g5, h4.
Yeah, trying to cement these pawns over here too to make sure there's no unnecessary counterplay.
Yep, and then if you do take on d5, once I get my pawn to h4, black runs the king up to the g4 square, plays h3, trades off those pawns, then wins the f pawn, and then wins the king and pawn ending.
And the reason why that's such a straightforward plan, everybody, that Robert laid out is because this pawn on c4 is both protected and passed. So that means the white king is sort of imprisoned to making sure it's always close enough to catch the potential lady there on c1, but that means you can't ever do anything against a plan as straightforward as Robert described. Really, this could be a really instructive win we're about to see here for Dominguez Perez. So for those of you who have any ambitions of improving your endings, maybe take note of what we're about to watch.
Yep. So I would think about playing h4 right now.
Yeah, because at this point you're almost forcing white to consider taking the knight. If white doesn't take the knight on d5, h4 opens up the f4 square. And okay, oh, look at that. Speaking of instructive ideas, I think MVL just swindled Dominguez. Look at him lean back after that move, Robert. I think f3 had the idea exactly as we just said to take here, and he swindled him. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. Wow. Look at him just agree to a draw, like, fool me once. You know, those pesky kids.
Yep, he said, I'm locking your king out, and there's no progress to be made. That was that
was awesome. We just called for what we thought was going to be an instructive win by black, but that's defensive resources spotted by a 2,800 Grandmaster at its best.
Yeah, that was really great. And, you know, the king got trapped out. And so that's actually, now I actually question Dominguez's knight d5 move. Because
it seems in hindsight that it was slightly unnecessary given that there was a coming trap there because the knight on f6 previously just held the square e4 from the white squared bishop.
Yep. Wait, what is, moving on to this game, what is a5? It seems sort of random, honestly. Like, I don't know why that pawn's on a5. It makes the move c5 harder to play. For black, maybe black is going to go for c6 and try to go for e5, but something about a5, it seems, I don't even know the word for it. I think MVL
it seems like a bullet Hikaru move. Go ahead, you can say it. We're amongst friends here. It seems like a dubious bullet move.
Yeah, I don't understand it. It doesn't. White wasn't really trying to play b4. And now bishop d3. So if white was trying to play b4, is changing plans because after this bishop d3 move, white can play for e4 and take over the center. So very interesting. Very.
I agree. It's unique. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here a little bit still. Just. Did you get? I mean, are you as excited as I am? I mean, we're not on camera. You can say that was an awesome draw swindle. I'm sorry. That was just awesome.
That was really phenomenal. I was trying to. It's funny because initially I was thinking about how black wanted to rush to play h4.
Yeah.
But MVL, I guess, had it in the back of his mind that there is no way for that king to get in if he gets his f3 g4 set up. Which means that perhaps the idea with going pawn h4 was wrong to begin with, even in not just in practice, but as sort of a theoretical idea. So very instructive. I think MVL, that could be a turning point for him. But to me, it's still the Dominguez is sort of dominating with the black pieces.
Well, and not only that, I feel like he's been dominating the first stage overall. I mean, here once again, he's a little bit better transitioning out of the opening. Although this is sort of a typical pawn sack for everybody in the King's Indian because the potential of the long diagonal here for the dark square bishop, the fact that white has to waste time with the knight means that black's knight gets to choose squares like c5 and b4, where both the d file and the d3 square are sort of long-term problems. So for those of you who maybe aren't as familiar with this type of long-term positional sacrifice, this is kind of a common idea in some variations of the King's Indian, like this one here or like in the Zamish. So I think Black's doing just fine here, despite being down the pawn.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those positions where Black volunteers a pawn sacrifice, saying that I'm not going to be any worse. And White can always sacrifice the pawn back to play knight takes e4 and say knight d4, and saying if you're going to win my pawn back, you take with your bishop on d4. And I'm not really afraid of that. I actually didn't love the move rook to b1. I thought knight d4 first was a little more precise. I could be wrong, of course, but I just thought knight d4 would help. And then
you're saying instead of rook b1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just I want to close off that diagonal. The bishop on g7 is such a strong piece.
Yeah, and the d file. I mean, you close off the rook from d8. There is a potential, as dangerous as it is to play bishop d2. It's definitely a potential if you close the d file. So I agree with you. I think knight d4 is a little more accurate. And now, I mean, honestly, Dominguez time management tells us that maybe he agrees with you. He's been in quite the think here since knight fe4.
Yeah, I wonder if he's going to play knight e2 here just to drop back that knight so he can try to play. Okay, and he doesn't. But I thought he was going to try to play b3. And he does exactly what I mentioned, knight d4. So he's hoping if after bishop takes d4, pawn takes, rook takes, that he has enough to equalize. But I'm not sure he does because bishop d4, pawn d4, rook d4, the c4 pawn's under attack.
Yeah. No, I for the first time, Robert, as we transition into the middle endgame, I feel like we have an advantage for MVL.
Yeah, because b3, knight d2 is an uncomfortable endgame. So knight d2, 100% is going to be played.
Yep.
Take. And now Black is clearly the preferred side. Because
this reminds me of an endgame I remember that taught me a very useful lesson as like a young master, transitioning into what I thought, this will be a great chance to get a draw against a GM. It's a dead equal rook ending. How could I lose this? And just really appreciating the value of the first person on the 7th or 2nd rank and the fact that Black is in complete control over the direction of this game. And I just got completely grinded and ground down. What is the proper? Grounded? I got, let's just say it was abusive, and I eventually lost. So, no, I agree, and this is also instructive because I think people look at that as, okay, how much winning chances could there possibly be here? I think there's very good winning chances for Black.
Yep, and I think that perhaps f3 instead of b3 was the better move, just so you could give your rook the f2 square, and that way if there were trades on d2, you would have rook f2 at the end, and not the pawn structure right now is very bad for White, because if you take off the rooks, the Black king will just jet over the dark square to the b4 square. And yes, maybe it's still possible to hold in certain positions, but
in fact, MVL already sort of spying that point right there, plays king f8, which I think is a nice move to be ready for that idea. I think here probably he doubles rooks first, or does he just run up with king e7?
It's interesting because I'm also thinking about rook a6 to b, and there it is, to b6, right? That's a sort of thematic rook lift. If I'm White, I'm trying to play rook to d1, just like get rook fd1. Try to trade off those rooks as quickly as possible.
Well, I think Black probably meets that with rook a to d6 still, though. Just holds the d file.
But then I'm going to take and maybe play b4, and I said rook f1, because if you play rook b to d1. What I'm concerned about is that same rook d6 idea, but I've lost in a very important tempo where I can't play b4, and so I have to set up in a very passive defense. But if I play rook fd1 and you try to go rook d6 again, I will take you on d2 and I think go for b4, or if not immediately.
Maxime agrees with you, and he just trades on d1 for that reason and plays king e7.
So I'm wondering at first glance if rook d5 is a good move, because that keeps that rook honest to the a5 pawn, and from White's perspective, you want to go king f1, king e2, but rook d5 might be a move that limits the Black rook, although you could still go rook b6 and actually give up your a5 pawn for that b3 pawn, and that's...
and that's probably a better transition for Black, just because pawns being split here, everybody, gives Black potentially easier targets than White has with these pawns sort of being healthy and together.
Yeah, so I think you have to go king f1, king e2, rook d3, just sort of admit that you're going to be quite in a passive setup for a bit, but it doesn't look particularly great for White, because rook d6
very nice. This is really instructive, everybody. Always be aware of whether the transition into the next more simplified ending is better for you or better for your opponent. It gives you not just the ability to play moves like this, but the power when you're calculating to make sure you're accurately assessing whether you should or shouldn't make exchanges. I think always be aware of the transition and whether or not you'll be the one it improves your winning chances or makes them worse. And that's I think MVL is going to get this game now.
Well, rook b5, there we go.
But here comes b6 and
king e2.
b6, king e2. just barely holding enough, maybe?
I think he is. Because if you go rook d6, now I go c5 with tempo gained because it attacks your rook on d6. And c5 here, I think.
C5, rook d5?
Oh, rook d5. That's... Yeah, that would actually maybe not be great. So it goes king e3. So the question is, can black go c5, king c6, and just play up a rook?
I love the move c5. It's screaming my name. Trap the rook. Dirty girl. Do it.
Yeah, definitely play c5.
c5. Say goodbye to the... I think he played rook b5 with your idea in mind, Robert, that he could play c5. And then...
Oh, no, I hate that move. The thing was, I was going to ask, if black did nothing, can white actually make progress? Sorry, if white
did nothing, could black make progress? Well, I don't know, but Eric Meyer agrees that this should just be winning now for black after c5. And again, everybody, the point was we think probably rook b5 was played with the thought that he could follow with c5, but rook d5 would have transitioned again into a winning king and pawn ending likely. So that's why he played the move king to e3. Maxime found c5, and after b4, I'm pretty sure MVL is just choosing his path to victory. For the first time, we see a significant time advantage by either player in the game. Should be noted that Maxime just way up on the clock here.
Yep. And so he's going to go rook b6, rook takes c5, and play with a passed b pawn. So this is...
Feels good.
Yep. Yep. That rook on b5 was not a pretty piece, and c5 was very timely by MVL. And there's still chances to draw this game, honestly, because the pawn on a5 needs defense at all times. And so... And this is exactly the setup that white wants, is to get the rook behind this pawn because the king is close enough to defend against the b pawn. Now, white king is very near, and white needs to keep this rook in a very active position. So after king b6, maybe play rook a8. And if I'm black, I need to create a weakness on the other side of the board. I need to figure out a way to get to the h2 pawn, for example. Whoa.
Ooh. Was that just a mouse slip? Seems like it was a mouse slip.
Yeah, that can't be intentional.
It could not have been planned. Maybe he anticipated a move and had pre-moved rook b8, but that would be low percentage chess. So I'm gonna throw it up to a mouse slip likely.
Yeah, that caught me off guard because he actually had chances to defend. It was a very bad endgame, but there were definitely chances there. And instead, rook b8 check loses material. So we see another sort of offbeat opening, if you will, from MVL's point of view. Dominguez seems ready to handle everything that's being thrown his way. And
we see our first player singing with Maxime humming whatever French pop music is playing in his head.
What do you think he's singing?
Probably like Papa Toué. I don't know. That's an actual song, by the way, by a famous French artist. So, or maybe Formidable. I don't know. Who knows? But shout out to everyone in the chat. I saw a question earlier. Thank you for all the gifted subs. Cheers, bits, donations, all go to the prize fund. Subs happen because you love using emotes or you just love chess or whatever. But yeah, that's a clarification there. Thanks to everybody that's here and all the positive love coming in the chat.
So what is Max thinking about here? I guess he's trying to figure out how to clarify this pawn structure. And he goes rook c1. So he's allowing d takes c4 at any moment, which trades the light square bishops. But what white will claim is that the bishop on d4 in particular is stronger than the bishop on e7. There's a clear target on the a7 square. Now I thought you would take with a knight on c4, honestly. This doesn't seem to be too ideal. So just b5 here, maybe?
You would like b5.
Well, I think b5 takes over the c file for black. You don't have to worry about your a7 pawn. Your queen can go to that long diagonal with the check. I don't know. I think b5 makes a lot of sense because, and there it is.
Yeah, but the song is in French. I know he's Belgian, but it's a French song. He's speaking French.
I really don't know the song you're referencing. So.
Never mind. I'm in an argument subtly with the Twitch chat. Those calling me out on my. So, any hooters. All right, back to the fact that black has the C file, and again, no problems out of the opening. Also back up on time, which makes Dominguez a happy boy.
He's really impressed me thus far. He seems to be very much in control of the early stages of the game. Yes, MBL just came up with a brilliant endgame in the last one. I take it back. In that last game, MBL sort of turned the tables because he got the advantage of the opening by sacrificing a pawn, and Dominguez sort of bit, right? He could have just stayed calm, not done anything, but instead he took the pawn and they didn't find a proper defense to liquidate and get into a reasonable or easily defensible endgame. Now, with the black pieces, he's done everything correctly. He has nothing to worry about. The pawn a7 is not under attack because queen b7 check picks up that bishop. And even if I didn't have the check to win your bishop, I could play queen a6 and win your a2 pawn in return. So in this one, from White's point of view,
I think we should consider whether we can go for something that quickly challenges the c file. I mean, okay, queen to b1 sounds weird to me, but I'd love to get a rook to c1 quickly. Takes f6. I'm anticipating he plays knight e4, yeah. And the idea is that pinning the knight on the long diagonal doesn't matter because queen f3. In fact, it loses immediately, a fun little trick, right? Queen c6 would run into queen f3. Maybe not losing, but problems.
Not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. So bishop e7 backplayed. And from White's point of view, you want black to play b4 voluntarily. Because if you play b4 as black, you reroute that knight to c4, and you say that your pawn's gone a little too far.
Right.
If I'm black, I'm certainly not touching that pawn because I also like that I can put my bishop on a3 to help take over the c file. Okay, don't blunder your queen. Knight
yeah,
f6
I love
check.
that little tickle, though, that MBL did, everybody. The point is there was a threat of knight f6. Discover check and bye-bye birdie. Okay, but now queen a6 is returning the favor. I love this move, rook d1. Counterplay at its best. Look for an active way to defend a weakness before you ever consider moves like rook a1 or queen to e2 to guard upon. See if you can get away with some active counterplay. And Dvoretsky taught us well. Now even rook b7.
Yeah, rook b7, probably play a6. And it's actually not going to be so easy for
White to regain the pawn, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, though, that the activity did seem like a good idea for MVL. And I don't think he's that much worse, but I do think he is slightly worse because it is a pawn. The queen on a3, bishop on e7 combination. You can't stop them from protecting one another. And g4 is one of those moves where you're trying to stop f5 from being a good move, but it's also not a move that you really wanted to voluntarily play. And so if I'm black, I consider do I play h6 just to make sure that there are no back. There it is, no back rate checkmates, and he plays it. And now after queen f4, the question is, how does black continue? Do I start playing a5, a4, and just try to get my pawn as advanced as possible? Do I play a6 to defend b5, and that way, queen c7 is the idea for White. And actually, if queen c7 is the idea, do I play queen b4? And that way I stop your queen from just moving wherever it wants to. And after queen b4, if you take on a7, well, then maybe I regret giving you that a pawn. So,
then maybe I regret that suggestion, yeah.
So he plays a5. I
Okay,
like
but
this suggestion.
Here comes queen c7. You may see queen b4 anyway, a trade offered for bishop and knight.
Ooh, queen b4 is also, I was thinking just bishop b4 because you're not actually going to get after my f7 pawn too easily. At least I didn't think you were. So
I think one issue to consider is the move g5. Whether White just goes all out aggressive with counterplay on the king side here. G5 is actually super dangerous because if you trade, all of a sudden this knight on G5 has dirty intentions on both F7 and E6.
Yeah, you're right. So queen b4 was played, but I guess rook d4 forces queen a3 back.
Right.
So
little tempo. Tempo.
Well, you can play rook d4, queen a3 force, and then rook back to d7. And if black wants to play for win, actually black can. I wonder if black can play bishop h4 at some point. Very strange looking move.
I think this move, queen b7, says Maxime is not so sure how black deals with all these tricks and threats.
But what's the actual threat?
I don't know. But I don't know. I mean,
rook takes e7.
Okay, in this position we are threatening to win the bishop, but okay, let's say black plays rook e8. What's the next move for White?
Yeah, and what if I play bishop h4? Because the thing is, if you can't move your knight with a pawn on g4 being vulnerable, what if I play bishop f6? Saying you could take me on, he plays bishop h4, but if you go, say, king h3 here, can I not just go bishop f6, and if you take me on f6, I take back with my g pawn? I am up a pawn. My king's not that unsafe, especially with your pawn on g4, means there's no checks on the g file.
Well, we're going to find out. So bishop f6.
You can also go bishop d8. I just don't like putting my bishop on the square. But
if we really want to get jiggy with it after the bishop moves, now that g4 is defended by the king, you could consider knight d6 here for White, threatening both b5 and f7.
So now with knight d6, I guess I'll go h5. And that way, if you take on h5, queen h4
Okay,
check.
here he goes.
Go h5.
Okay, h5 would be a nice find, although the move to consider is whether white plays f4.
Wow. Yeah,
h5,
I thought I could take
f4.
The thing is, even if you take on f7, you're not mating me with my bishop on f6. So I'm more worried about that white king being so far advanced.
Yeah.
So
I agree, h5.
F4 looks very interesting, actually. I didn't even think about that. I just thought h5, queen h4 check. I'm like, okay, that saves my f7 pawn.
Well, he goes for it. Yeah, I mean, f4 is super risky, right? I mean, that's all in, and you may end up getting your own king mated as it gets drawn out.
It's a double-edged move. It's both sides playing for wins there. But I do think the bishop on f6 defends g7.
One move I would consider here as white is queen e4. Offering the queen trade, because if you ever take on g4, I can take with the queen. Oh, okay, well, he goes for the f4 idea that I spotted, but I'm regretting because I feel like this is going to backfire for Maxime, but we'll see.
What about bishop e7? This knight keeps hanging in like so many variations, so I wonder if bishop e7...
I think you could probably take on g4 and then play bishop e7. There's threats of f5 check in some positions.
Yeah, I like that. So that way I save my f7 pawn. I think I could take on g4 and just play bishop f6. G7 pawn is really the one I need to keep defended. But, yeah.
Sounds like a microwave just went off. You cooking a Hot Pocket over there?
I wish. I'm actually getting pretty hot. So let's see. What's he thinking about? Can you take on b3 as well? Queen b3, f takes g5, queen takes e3 check. So he actually goes for this. Wait.
Wow. King h4. Is he missing queen e1? Or is queen e1 just failed at king takes g4?
No, queen e1, king h5.
King h5, and the king is running out of checks. Eat your heart out, Nigel Short.
I mean, I think this is a blunder by...
I think it was a blunder by Dominguez Perez, and this is like suddenly a huge turnaround in this game. King h5 is lights out. There's no checks. Oh my God, that's nasty.
And if you take on f7, queen takes, and the f4 bishop's hanging. So he...
Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dominguez went for...
This is never go full short. E4 blocking the checks and resigns for black.
Yeah, E4.
This is for those who don't know the game. Go ahead and just Google Nigel Short versus Jan Timman right now, or even just Google Short versus Timman King Walk. It's basically an autocomplete on Google. Go ahead and do yourself a favor and go see one of the most beautiful games of all time.
Wow, that was awesome.
That was really something special, and it shows that those types of ideas where you can do something so extreme like a king walk like that only happen when you have complete dominance over a certain area of the board, whether it be the 7th rank or an open file, because black, okay, I think Dominguez Perez messed that up, but black got himself in a position where every piece was stuck because of white's dominance over other areas, that in this case being the 7th rank and the fact that, white controlled the open board, so there were no checks. Just amazing stuff.
Yeah, kind of reminiscent of the game between Aronian and Caruana as well, where Aronian's king ran all the way to the queen side.
Kind of reminiscent of that show, too, with that car alarm going off. #New York.
Yeah, it's, New York City for you. Gotta love it.
Gotta love it. I love how you say that with a little bit of... That was a little bittersweet. No?
Daddy Pete was asking for a Sicilian earlier.
Yeah.
And now he can be a happy man.
He's got his Najdorf.
There's a Najdorf here. And h4,
that's odd. Look how quickly Maxime played, though. This is not his first Najdorf rodeo, as everyone knows. Someone in Chess TV chat asking, Maxime is a big positional player, right? Maybe surprised to see a Najdorf. That's not really true. Maxime plays a Najdorf every chance he gets. He plays the Najdorf in his sleep.
I mean, I was going to say is h4 that did get this bishop to h3, but actually, I'm pretty interested in this as an idea, because if you take on d5, I take with the pawn, the rook, something on d5.
I think you can take with the rook. The thing that's weird about these positions is black has to be super careful whenever you take on d5, even just from the simple pawn takes, because you get just long-term problems on the light square, shots like bishop h3, even the knight from e2 can remaneuver itself. So These are weird positions where you hate this knight on d5 because it prevents the bishop from coming to e7, but you're never really happy to take it. That's speaking from Nightorf experience on the black side of these positions. So shout out to Books Are Nice, our first bits of the day. Donations going to the players, so thanks for that.
Awesome. Yeah. And b4. So it's one of those moves where you would like to get an attack going for for black, but then I look at black's king side, totally undeveloped, so I'm a bit concerned. Now actually with the queen on c8, I like ideas of taking on d5 even less because bishop h3 hits that queen on c8 with tempo. So if I'm white, I'm trying to play for f4. I feel like queen e3, maybe I can play f4 myself and just get my queen off of this. Yep, and he plays it. Otherwise I didn't see what white's doing. If you just sort of sit, you can't play bishop h3 with the queen on c8. That's what the purpose of it was. And so now I like the idea to play f4. So yeah, f4 looks good to me. f4, a4. You're playing on both sides of the board here. So he plays knight c1. Also like that move. Very good defensive type of move. That way b3 can never happen. For black, you've had that fully covered. So after a4, you can even play knight d3 and offer a trade of the knights there, but I think white should just play the move f4. Whoa, wait a second. Isn't knight f6 check? I guess he's allowing knight f6 check, saying after king e7, knight d5 check, I don't mind that my king had to move. But yeah, he plays knight f6 check. And now queen g5. What? Is there... this king is in double check's way. So bishop h6 is met by knight g8, double check. And if you play another move, I think you just play bishop g7 and just take on h5. So,
yeah. This is a problem. You can play king to d8, surprising. Okay, now there's going to be a double check to consider. Like knight g8, and then the queen comes to e7. Okay, he goes for it. What happens? The black king runs to c6, but you get mated on d6.
No, I'm taking your bishop, right? King f8, knight takes h6. And then, aren't I just going up a piece? I guess knight takes e4 is the response. It's actually not as clear as I would have liked, but queen e3 played. So knight c3 check doesn't work. I just can take it and play knight b3, for example, and close up the b file.
Yeah. No, I mean, MVL definitely blundered into this whole queen g5 battery, because this is just... Yes, this knight has some work to do to get out of it, and so in Blitz, who knows, anything's possible, but no way that this isn't good for white.
So how does that knight get out? That's actually... So knight c3 check now is a threat with the rook on h1 hanging. So bishop d3?
Bishop to d3. Knight c3 check is something to consider anyway in a lot of these positions. Okay, it's not going to happen here, everybody, but just to show you the idea, there really are some dangers on the b file. Things like knight b3, even queen a4. So sometimes there can be weird stuff here to watch out for, where black's mating net, despite what the computer tells you, is actually just not possible to stop. So I think Perez is going to be very careful here.
Yeah. So, he plays bishop d3. And maybe your idea with knight c3, well, you can also do knight c3, check, b takes c3, b takes c3, knight b3, a4. Right?
Yeah,
you win that piece back. And the knight on h6 is still trapped.
Yep.
So how many pawns does black have? Just one. So that's good for white to know that at any moment you can go knight takes f7 to, that will be
sort of equal.
Equality.
But I like knight c3 anyway with your idea of a4, because at the end of that line, if I win the piece back on b3, I mean, I'm just threatening king g7, and I'm just going to win the knight back.
Yeah, this is actually quite worrisome. So knight c... Can you... Yeah, he goes forward. I was wondering if he'd even go backward with knight f6, but I think this is clearly the way to go. But after a4, bishop e4, is that a possibility here?
Bishop e4, little tempo.
Yeah. I thought bishop e4, you can't play d5 because I can take on d5 and play queen takes e5 there, with both rooks hanging on h8 and b8. So you never want to play d5 from black's point of view.
But even if black just plays a move like queen c7 on bishop e4, you've got the same issues you had before.
I was going to go rook d3 and try to win your c3 pawn. That pawn's really frustrating me, so I thought I'd go and win it, but maybe it doesn't work.
I mean, there's a couple things to consider, right? Taking b3 a whole lot of times and see if I can checkmate you, or find a way to give you c3 and then go after the knight on h6. I expect we'll see queen c7, and if rook d3, If you just take on b3 and play king g7, even if you win the c3 pawn, I move queen to e7, and I'm winning my material back. Wow.
Queen d6.
He's so confident he's going to win his material back, he's just going to get the ladies off the board. In fact, trading the queens immediately makes the knight on h6 vulnerable.
But I do not like that move because, as we mentioned, black had only one pawn for the piece. So even if I play a move like queen takes c3 and you go rook takes h6, then I just can make a move like queen to d2, and you'll eventually take. Well, maybe I'm getting myself mated. I'm just trying to see, like, at some point you'll take on b3. I'll take back with the a pawn, and this d6 pawn is something you need to worry about. So
we're going to see a line probably similar to that here. I'm anticipating.
Actually,
oh, okay.
Queen d2. No, queen d2 hits the rook on h6.
Queen d2 hits the rook and d6. Oh, he didn't see it. He didn't see it. That's going to be a big help for Maxime. Although this rook on h6, right now we have the flipped side of that same story. The knight on h6 was extra but trapped. Now you've gotten it back, but that rook on h6 is terribly misplaced.
Yeah, but if I can trade queens for black, then I probably won't be too unhappy, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. I could have went queen b4 last move, actually. That might have been an idea to trade those queens off. But here, queen d2 again, this rook on h6 is still miserable. And f5 is a big threat for white.
f5 is coming.
So you have to move your rook, I think. You don't want to take on f4 and now queen takes f4 followed by rook takes d6. Unless there's some capture on b3 that's available. So many tactics at this moment. I don't think the captures on b3 quite work out. So perhaps they do. So here, queen takes d6.
Yeah. Trading to the endgame. And black may have some drawing chances, but these are double connected passers over here on this side of the board. So Maxime playing very quickly. But here comes king b2. Seems like it should be pretty straightforward with these pawns. Yeah, he plays it because it just makes sense. And here come the pawns. They're going to push.
Yeah, he can go b4, b5 in the near future. Just get a more advanced pass pawn, bring his king to b4, and then play from there. The problem for black is you need to trade this bishop for both queenside pawns and then do something about the kingside pawns as well. And note that the h8 square is the wrong color. And this may be early to say that, but something I'm always noting is that this if I can take the f pawn and trade my bishops for the c and b pawns, well, then all of a sudden I may not be losing after all. So if I'm white, I would consider playing rook f2 and I'm playing for f5 essentially. Now, well, this actually looks pretty good too. He's just going b4. And do you trade? I would trade and play c4 here. I think you can just start pushing those pawns. But you can also, okay, rook here. Now bishop takes f5. Oh, look what he did. That was smart. He ruined black's pawn structure. He said by pushing your king away, the rook on c8 was hanging, so he took on f5 now. He can play rook h to d2, but then maybe rook h3 is what he's worried about. All right, so rook c4 here. Yep. I would take on c4, play king b3, or maybe play c3 here. One of those moves has to be good because c3, the problem is after you take on f4, I thought I'd put my rook on the 4th rank. Here, if you take on h4, I guess my b pawn keeps rolling. He's completely winning. Yeah, I'm too quick. I go c4, c5, b6. My pawns just run forward. And the problem for black is the king is cut off. Actually, rook h1, I have to consider pushing my own pawn to h2 for black. But after here, king b4, oh, king b2 he played. I guess I'll go rook h4 back. Yep. And then he'll play, I thought king b4 to c5 was the way to go. So b6, take on, oh, that's nice. b6, rook c4, b7. Nice. And that way after rook b4, you go rook b2, and you go up a rook in this ending here. Very well played by Dominguez. And let's see, king f6. The white king runs back. I think the white king's way too quick. Yeah, this is winning and very instructive. Don't worry about this f7 pawn. You'll capture it later. It's far more important that your king runs back to save the day. And now Dominguez is winning. And it actually goes to show how smart he was to ruin black's pawn structure earlier with that rook d6 check, bishop takes f5. So here rook h7 is mating to rook h7 was led right to checkmate. But I guess this also should lead a checkmate. Yeah, rook b3. And he wins.
People calling for MVL to flag him, but no, not happening.
Yeah, it's interesting, that double rook endgame. I was trying to make things work. It was beautiful that he took on f5. That was a very instructive point there, I think, for everyone watching. The fact that he ruined his opponent's pawn structure made many of the rook endgames better for him than they were before. So very nicely done by Dominguez. Evens the matchup, 3-3. So what to make of this? Dominguez with black again. He's been very good with the black pieces, except that blunder with the king march by NVL in the last game. So they seem to be quite a good pairing. This is someone was asking me earlier in the chat, which matchups where I'm looking forward.
Yeah, no, this is at the top of a lot of people's lists. So
yeah, this one has been really, really good. And when we eventually interview the players, they will say that whoever wins, it's a very tough matchup for both sides. And these players are very, very strong. In fact, they're the 8 and 9 seeds, but they very well could be the 4 and 5 seeds. That's how much of a toss-up at this elite level these things can be. Oh, in this position again, this is what we saw between Wesley So and Wei Yi, and what we saw between Wesley and Krumnick at the candidates. So these positions, you go knight h5 and back to f6. So that's what Dominguez can do here. And he plays queen c7. So he's actually not playing this line that has been seen many times in recent months with knight going from f6 to h5 and back to f6. The point is that white's center is actually a little bit vulnerable. And by pushing a pawn, let's say you ever go e5 for white, you're going to regret the consequences by giving up the d5 square. So instead, he plays queen c7 and rook e7, which is an odd little maneuver here. But he has f7 very well defended. So that way there's no knight takes f7 tactics ever. And you can't do it anyway because your queen on f4 is hanging. But if your queen were forced off of the diagonal, there would be some knight takes f7 tactics that now don't work. And after rook c1 here, for white, black can just play the move queen to either b8 or d8 and say, I'm going to swing my rook from e7 to c7, take over the c file, and hope that in any endgame, it's what Swindler said in Beal, that he was trying to maneuver into an endgame where the 2-on-1 majority kind of dictates the equality. So I like that saying.
It's a Grunfeld structure in some ways, but similar idea, which would make sense with Swindler making the reference.
Yep. So here, what does white even do? Because a move like knight to g6 just trades queens in the f4 square. A move like queen e3, the black just goes bishop b7 back, and then rook to c7. So it goes knight g6.
Knight g6.
Well, they're trading it on f4 here. It's just a fancy way to trade.
Just a fancy way to trade, yeah.
But I think that black is doing perfectly fine. You can play just king f8. It's important not to rush things because you can play e5 as black as well. But the problem with e5 is, first of all, knight d5 is actually quite a painful response, but ignoring the tactics that are available after e5, you don't actually want to allow white the easier pass pawn situation. By playing e5 as black, you say, okay, white will take on e5, eventually hit the rook on e5, and play e5 himself. Now you're saying, well, how does white create a pass pawn? The only way to do so is by playing d5, but once they go e takes d5, you're going to be left with an isolated pawn, which you don't want in an endgame like this. So,
well, but isolated if it comes with counterplay, like black hasn't dealt with the back rank or has no clear way to deal with it. It's not, I mean, d5 is certainly something white will be trying for at some positions, especially if the rooks come off the board, look for d5.
Right. It's not out of the question, but you don't want to as well play a move like that too quickly and leave yourself with a potentially problematic pawn in the endgame, because if the pieces get traded off, then the 2-on-1 majority for black on the queen side will distract white's pieces, and then gobble up that pawn. So here black can play king e7, or is g5 like a real threat somehow?
Yeah, this move g5 is actually really irritating. g4 was played, by the way, my favorite.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering if white's trying to play g5 himself. But I guess you can just go knight d7 and ignore it. Especially now that you played b5, your knight can swing over to b6 very quickly. So what is white's plan? Eventually to go, so if I go g5, knight d7, and then d5 for white, I guess Black just plays e5 in response and says, you've created yourself a nice pass pawn, protected, but I'm going to close down the dark squares. But that...
No, that feels like would be an advantageous transition from the current position for white. Okay,
I mean... Well, yeah.
b5 is a good move, right? I mean, because now you're threatening a5, and if you get a4, it's not just that you're advancing these 2 pawns closer to queening, but the rook on the c file makes c2 dangerous.
Yeah, a good question was just asked, Danny. Why not bishop takes e6 in this last position?
Yeah.
Instead of king e2. But bishop takes e6 doesn't work out because if you take on e6, Black has this move.
g5.
Oh, actually, wait, but g5 you have knight d5. Yeah, but then I just take on d5, right? So that doesn't.
Well, if you take on d5, you take with the bishop back.
Wait, but now bishop takes e6 is hanging after g5 by white.
At g5, I think there would have been rook c2 check by Black. No, but you're right, actually. That was not that clear at all. Bishop takes e6.
But now bishop takes e6 is actually happening because white went g5 himself.
Yeah, after the knight moves, here comes bishop takes e6, and rook c2 check runs into king to d3, and white steals the pawn.
Yep. So this looks like a huge oversight by Dominguez,
Yeah.
and maybe why he should have went king e7 earlier, because with king on e7, you don't have to worry about any sacrifices on the e6 square. But now, all of a sudden, you move your knight, say to e8, bishop takes e6. I mean, there it is. And I guess it can... So Black can play rook c2 check, but king d3. And then I can play rook h2, but I'm not really threatening your h1. Your knight on f4 is a very good defensive piece there. Yeah, this is far from what was desired here.
A missed tactic for sure.
I guess, where's your bishop going? So rook c2, king d3, rook h2. Where does this bishop go from the e6 square?
I mean, it just goes to d5.
If you go d5, I take you on d5. And if you take with the knight, I win the h3 pawn, or the a2 pawn, actually. That's a way more valuable pawn. So how are you protecting your a2 pawn is sort of my question. So just bring the rook to c2 and maybe even to b2. I like putting my rook on h2. It just looked more threatening. But I wasn't sure how you keep control over your a2 pawn. Right? Like rook c2 check, king d3, rook h2. If you go bishop b3, I go a4. I played rook c3, so similar idea, I guess. He wants to just go after the a pawn. If you go like bishop d5, I take you on d5 and go rook c2 check to win the a pawn. So now
this is going to be one of those interesting positions, though, where the imbalance, you could even go for this if you're white. King d3, rook takes a2, rook c1, and white goes for aggressive counterplay on the open file and against the awkward king and knight. Kind of a common idea in some of these positions to look out for.
Yep, and MVL's been singing again, so seems to be quite a
he was much more lean back in the lean back pose there with his arms crossed. Now he's zoned in.
So interesting. So it was a blunder by Dominguez that might turn out to work in his favor.
Nothing like blundering your way into a victory.
Well, yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far quite yet, but yeah, it's one of those moments where you blunder and then all of a sudden you might get the majority on the clear pass pawns on the queen side, and it can go wrong for MVL. So let's see. He's still thinking. So bishop d5. So you have to take on d5. Otherwise,
Got
what
to.
counterplay?
Oh, no. He says he doesn't have to.
So he's going after the f3 pawn, which actually is a very interesting decision. So he's saying your king can't go to d2 because your f3 pawn hangs. If you play e5 as white, then I'll always have knight c7 at the right moment.
Well, that's what's going to happen. e5, knight c7. The bishop's going to tuck itself on e4.
But then I'll go after your a pawn.
Okay, if you go for the a pawn, though, but I have d5 and d6 coming. h6 is also falling. I think this is going to come down to some sort of race, right? Where black is going to win the a2 pawn, but will white's center pawns and the d pawn specifically have become too dangerous in the meantime? And
knight e6. Look at that, offering the trade. So after knight takes e6, f takes e6.
Yep, the pawn guards d5.
That was very interesting.
But it's also slow. Now white has rook d1, meeting rook a3 with rook d2.
Yeah, but then I b4 check and bishop c4.
Ah, rook d1, rook a3, rook d2, b4, everybody. Boom. Nice calculation, although I do have bishop b1 at the end of that line.
but then you're stuck in a passive position.
Well, you also have bishop d5 hitting f3.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about that bishop endgame because I think that I'll go g6, and then at the end of the day, you only have one pawn, which is would be great, but it makes it easier, at least in theory, for black to sack. Whoa!
He pulled a Bobby, took on h7, baby, Bobby Fischer.
But watch out for that a pawn now.
Yeah,
he's up 2 pawns temporarily. Go rook a3.
Got to play rook a3. No.
Oh, okay. He's going after the f3 pawn. If rook e3, he'll play rook c1.
Yep. Okay, but so bishop e4, now you take on a2.
Take a2.
Yep.
Black's pawns look more dangerous to me than white's pawns.
A lot more dangerous. Agreed. White has to come up with something very fast. I like this move, h4, h5, h6.
So a3, just push that a pawn. Push him, baby.
Who's faster, Alfred or Harry? Alfred or Harry?
D5. Oh, I love that move too. Look at this. Take. If you go h6, I can take on h6. And I think I play rook c6 and come after. Oh no, maybe 8.
Well, he's just going to stop the pawn, even with a slow move like rook c8, rook h8, because he's saying, rook to c1.
Yeah, that was a beautiful move.
And the rook gets behind the pawns, rook b7.
But rook b7, I go b3, and then am I threatening to take on h7?
He's going to play rook b4.
But rook b4, I take on h7 and put my rook on b7 behind my pawn. And I don't know if you're going to be able to win that.
Well, I mean, I can get. Okay, I didn't. Yeah, at this point, I was wondering if MVL was playing for a draw. But you're right.
So rook b6. So king. Uh-oh.
This is amazing.
Rook takes h7. Rook takes h7.
Oh, he's going to sacrifice the rook to make sure the 2 pawns can win.
Yep, because isn't black better now? Rook h1. He missed rook h1.
Rook h1 was winning on the spot.
You would have allowed the b pawn to roll.
Look at this, everybody.
Oh, he's making a draw now.
Board, rook h1, rook takes, b2, and it was unstoppable.
And now
he had 6 seconds and couldn't find it.
Wait, what was that move? Why do you go rook b8 instead of rook b4?
He might lose now.
No, he's not going to lose.
Okay, now it's a draw.
Back and forth. Yeah, because you can't allow king f5. That was
what a fancy way to get a draw with some multiple instructive and multiple dubious moments in that rook ending. That was really interesting, but a really instructive game overall, Robert, in terms of the balance of that Grunfeld structure, right? The philosophical debate, White's big center, and the potential of the d-pawn versus black, long-lasting 2-on-1 advantage, as Fiddler would say. And in the end, I think Black's majority ruled the day, but time pressure prevented him, Dominguez, from converting.
Yeah, that was a pretty epic game, honestly. And I don't use that word lightly. I think that game had a lot of back and forth to it. It probably, I don't know what the engines would say about it, but I would assume the engines would probably be like, oh, it was level the whole time, and you humans are silly. But it's one of those games where a single mistake can cost you the entire game. And you saw that MVL was going for tricks with rook check to f6 over to b6, and then Dominguez was well aware that he could give up his rook for the pawn, and his passed pawns would be too hard for the rook to stop. And that's the thing. Yep. 2 passed pawns together, a rook behind the pawns does not stop both. And so very, very instructive play.
And I agree with the majority of the chat saying this has been our best match so far, at least as far as the scoreboard would say. Neither player pulling ahead just yet. The faster time controls will be interesting to say because I don't know that we have I lean MVL in the faster time controls, just like the stats say, and because of the experience that we've seen him hold his own at times against guys like Nakamura. But I don't know that it's a clear decision as far as who's going to get better as less time is on the clock, Robert.
Yeah, we saw the Hammer when they played in the qualifier. Ludwig Hammer said that he was looking to keep it close before the 1 minute portion because he thought that's where he would be the favorite against Dominguez in any time control. But then Dominguez played really well in the bullet segment and kept playing like this Kali's Zuckertort opening that was like impossible for Hammer to do anything against. But again, I think the big difference between the qualifier and here is, and this is no offense at all meant towards Georg Meyer or Ludwig Hammer, is just that MVL is obviously a much stronger player. So even in those quicker formats, you can be as solid as you want. MVL will be aware of resources that perhaps the other players are not. So here, in this particular game, I'm liking White's position.
I love White's position in these types of night orbs. I feel like whenever the pawn has to push to f5 this early, it's only a matter of time before light square problems.
Yeah, I wonder if you just play bishop g2 here and say, if you take on e4, I'll just continue taking you, and my knight on e5 is a monster.
You can even play bishop h3. There's no immediate tactics to say you can't just put the bishop on h3 and prepare to exchange the bishops.
Wait, don't I lose my pawn on e4 if I play bishop h3?
How? Takes on e4. I
Knight
take
takes
e6.
No, I'm taking with my knight on e4.
Oh, you're taking with the knight on e4.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
But I see what you're trying to do
But
there.
no, but there's even in some of these positions, there's moves like f4 for white. I've lost myself a knight orf game or two with just the play becoming all about the king side and the potential weaknesses there. But okay. He takes on e7, then trades. Oh, I like this too. Play knight c3, knight d5.
Maybe bishop g2 first? But yeah, knight, ooh, bishop h3. So he's all about trading these bishops off, which I don't know if I agree with here. He's protecting his queen side. He's keeping c2 safe. And I think the long-term advantages certainly favor white. So,
Yep.
you know, if you can rook d5, rook d1.
No, but I agree. I think knight c3 was more accurate there for the very reason we're seeing now. The pawn on b4 prevents white from playing this move, knight c3. And the d5 square is going to be harder to reach now.
Yeah, he should play rook h1. I would play the move almost instantly just to double up my rooks in the d file. And there he goes. I don't know what he was. Maybe he was thinking about playing f4 in the right moment.
Well, f4 is probably still coming at the right moment.
F4 right now could be played.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of the fact that the pawn is pinned, so you can't capture on f4. And look at that pawn h5. That is something that I would keep an eye on. By playing f4, my queen can slide over to f3 at some point. And of course, I can take on e5 at any moment. But
the one thing that's interesting, though, is look at the time on the clock. And obviously, MBL's experience in the Knight Orf outweighs pretty much any of his opponents. That was a great match when we saw him play Caruana last year with so many interesting Knight Orf battles. But I've seen him play so many of these positions where positionally you love white. But yeah, queen b7 and...
He blundered. His rook f3, knight e4 is a winning
Rook f3,
threat.
knight e4 is going to win the exchange, everybody. Rook d1, rook f3, queen g5, knight e4, and black is winning large amounts of material.
I was wondering why he started thinking. I'm like, oh, rook hd1 is so obvious. But then I was like, oh, wait a second. The f3 square. So I guess you have to play rook d to d1, but rook f3 then wins the f2 pawn. So it's pretty awful.
Yeah.
That's...
Well, again, I feel like it became a tactical realization, but I was saying that we've seen MBL play so many of these Knight Orfs where the suspect nature of black's positional weaknesses, the light squares or the pawns, but he just has so much experience with all the tactics in these positions. And here he goes. He's rushing forward with knight e4. Now he's going to take on f2, win the exchange. Is there an even stronger idea like knight c3 or no? I think you probably just take f2.
Wait, how do you... I'm looking at your... Can I go b3? Is that possible? Because I'm just looking at your queen side and see no pieces in the defense. So if I go b3...
I was going to say one great point is that the queen was not even threatening to take this rook because of knight d2 discovered check. But rook takes f2 now immediately threatens rook takes e2, queen takes e2, and then knight to c3 resigns for white.
Oh, that's pretty brutal.
That's a fork.
Yep, so rook he1, take on e2. You take with a rook on e2, and then knight takes g3, I guess. Well, that doesn't look as clear as I want it to look. So rook he1 seems to be the move.
No, but I think white is just busted here. I mean, now you could take, and he has to take with the rook, because queen takes, knight c3 wins on the spot. So rook takes, knight c3, king c1.
Yeah.
I mean, knight takes d1, the queen's coming to h1. Oh, interesting move, queen c6. He's spying the x-ray potential in c2, which effectively pins the knight on e2.
So, so what can white... Well, now knight c3 is not as powerful just yet.
But you know
so
what the threat is here? It's knight takes g3.
Right. So I was wondering if I can go like queen g4 and try to go into e6 with check and at least pretend to threaten you in response. Well, it doesn't look good. Well, queen g4 does threaten knight d4, I guess.
Oh, knight d4. That's a nice idea. The point, everybody, is if black does something random, knight d4 defends c2, so that way white can take on e4 and defend c2 and actually hold the endgame. So queen g4.
So should black play d5 just to stop knight d4 and keep your knight really well placed on e4?
You know how I feel about pushing the d pawn.
You like it. Also, look at the time advantage for MVL. 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, no, that's, again, going to be probably the thing that tells the tale here is that it's a critical moment, and MVL is going to have a lot more time to find better moves.
Oh, look at that move. King a1. If you take on c2, I have rook c1 in response.
Owie.
So, and Dominguez spotted that instantly. So I guess you could still go d5 for black, but I like this move king a1. It makes your king feel much safer. Not that it's safe, but it is safer. And
No, it feels like he's defended. I agree. And I'm not sure if your b3 move back a few moves ago wasn't a better way for MBL. But despite all the pressure he hasn't won yet. But okay, patience. Your opponent's down under 20 seconds. This is going to be really hard to hold.
Yeah, what move can you even make for white here?
Okay, he plays knight c1, but now the c2 pawn is hanging, just rook takes.
Yep.
Which threatens rook takes c1, and Bob's your uncle on the back rank.
No, so rook takes c2 also threatens knight f2, right, among other things. So
yeah. You don't have any nephews yet, right? So or nieces, so there is no Bob's your uncle in your family yet.
Nope.
And your mom would love that if you were Bob the uncle.
Oh, Danny, you never stop, do you? With the Bob.
If your mom's listening, I got to give her the inadvertent shout out so she knows.
I have no idea if she is. I don't think so. I think she's busy. But
well, there are about 3,000 of you listening. I appreciate every single one of you that's here. Thanks for the donations we've had so far. Bigfoot coming through. I think we fixed the sound. I hate to distract and point out tech, but so many of you are regular, loyal fans, so you can give me some feedback. I think the audio quality is better. This is a brand new mic that we just spent some decent money on, so there are apparently other problems in this setup I've been using for years for our big events. So thank you for letting me know, but please know that I know and you don't need to scream about it, and I'm doing everything I can. So thank you.
People are saying it looks great. It sounds great, excuse me, not looks. But maybe you also look great. Let me check. Yeah,
I don't. You're the looks on this. I'm the brains, you're the looks. Isn't that the thing?
Okay, got it.
Oh, you didn't see that one coming, did you?
I didn't at all. But in this game here, speaking of not seeing things coming, we got an Italian game. And, well, so it looks like Maxime no longer entering the Spanish. And it goes for this Italian game. So if you take on e4 now, what are the consequences? I take on e5. And how do I evaluate these trades? I get the feeling that black should not be happy about it, but I also am not sure that it's so bad. Knight e4, pawn takes e5, bishop takes e3. I guess you have rook takes e3 there. Then I go d5.
But that's kind of a common trend. Okay, maybe white can even take on d5 there, possibly, and undermine the protection of the knight. But even if you don't, that's kind of a common transition where white ends up with this sort of 4-on-3 on the king side. You bring back the bishop and try to relocate for some sort of attacking chance on the king side.
Yep. So he might play knight g6 instead, I guess. But then you end up with a terrible pawn structure. Knight g6, d takes e5, and you're going to be very unhappy about that queenside pawn structure. I think you have to take on... Well, actually, maybe I can take on d4 here. Is that possible? You know, I'm running out of options that look good. So I'm...
He's an expert in these positions, Dominguez Perez, on both sides of these positions, actually, for those who don't follow his career. I remember, actually, this year for that chess camp that I taught you at years ago that you could continue to pretend to not remember. I actually had a lecture where I did a Dominguez Perez game versus Karyakin, and Karyakin won a great game as black in the same structure. So that was just this year. So Dominguez Perez plays these positions for all sides, and if he takes his time, it's not because he doesn't know what to do. He's calculating exactly the type of transition we're seeing here, really trying to decide what kind of structure he wants.
Yep, and he plays this d5 line. I think if bishop takes d5, he'll play knight c5, and we'll get into a position, as we saw Dominguez suffer against MVL earlier in this match, where it went to that rook endgame, where MVL went c5 eventually. But for the cost of a pawn, black gets long-term sustainable pressure on white's queen side. So knight c5 here, you have to play bishop b3.
Yeah, unless there's some other... I was looking if there was some other kind of back rank pressure tactic. I don't know, knight takes d5, rook takes, you develop the bishop quickly to f5 as black, the rook backs up, and you still have long-term compensation even if you just have to retreat the knight to b6. The white squared bishop is coming to c2, a4 is a target. I agree, there are numerous ways, I think, for black to get compensation for the pawn here. But I think he's thinking about lines like that and that he doesn't just have to play knight to c5.
Yeah, agreed.
Knight d5, rook e4, bishop f5, the rook backs up.
But I think something sort of important, though, is when your opponent has less space, they often want to trade pieces because their pieces are stepping on each other's toes. So I play knight c5 instead of taking on d5. I feel like I leave my opponent with his bishop on d1, which isn't such a great piece. And if I...
Ooh!
So
Did
bishop
we
f7
forget about Freddie?
Well,
King
king
takes.
f7.
He's going to
Yep.
take with the king.
And he's
Everybody's
saying
traded.
this endgame, he supposes, is easier to defend for black. I'm not so sure about that. This pawn e5 is well defended.
Yeah, this is a strange decision because it's the same type of game we were talking about. Black is hoping for compensation for this extra pawn on the light squares. The knight comes in, the bishop develops, but I don't like this. I think there's a reason we didn't see knight takes f2 coming. I don't feel like this was the best transition for black.
Yeah, I mean, now white is fully developed. The d2 square is defended.
Here comes knight b5. You got to play you got to play c6 here.
This is a
but
very
then,
bad.
But then the knight comes to c4 and d6 is a target.
Yep. So you don't want to play c6. Maybe you play bishop g4 or something. Okay, so with knight d5, that makes sense as well.
I mean, this is a weird position. White could almost even consider knight b5 here. No reason to sack the exchange, but I think this did not go as planned for Dominguez there.
So bishop f5. So he's getting a few tempi. So c5 maybe. I don't want to play c5, but I need to get my knight to f4 into d3. Like I don't see any other counterplay. I'm down a pawn. You're gonna do rook a to
c5 is just such an
ugly,
such
hideous,
a committal move, right? I go to d2, you play knight f4, and what if I just ignore it and play knight c4 coming into d6?
Yeah, this is. I mean, I don't see anything else.
I don't see any help either, and he's down 2 minutes on the clock. So I wonder what happened there. I wonder if he ran up against. I was touting the fact that he's an expert on both sides of these positions, but I wonder if he ran up against some MVL prep. If we backed up the analysis board back to that critical moment on move 10, Robert, after bishop e3, where you were spending a lot of time considering how to handle the pawn tension. And he took, looking at the time, he took 1 minute and 30 seconds on the decision to play knight takes e4. And as much as I was touting that was probably a decision to remember preparation, maybe he actually didn't quite know how to handle that move order.
Yeah, I don't think he did, and he got himself into trouble here. And it's not that this game is over yet, because right now, for example, you can go rook takes d2, and then maybe rook d8, just try to take over this d file. King e somewhere. I don't know if I want. Okay, king e6 does make sense. Now knight d3 threatens the e5 pawn, but I was worried about knight b3 with my king on e6. But I guess my king got.
But here the issue for black is, okay, I don't know exactly what move I'm playing as white. I can't play rook e1 because there's a fork on d3. But assuming I find a good move for white, black can never really get his rook in the game without a5 becoming an immediate problem as well. So. And in fact, maybe that's the move, is knight b3 just being very aggressive to target both a5 and c5 here.
Can I? No, I can't. Well, actually, maybe I can. Can I go b6? If you go knight takes b6, I have knight d3 check, followed by rook b8, picking up one of your knights. So...
Quick shout out to Ben Feingold. I know you've been trying to get my attention here for the last 20 minutes in chat. I saw your Tempe Phoenix pun. Leave it to Ben to come up with the awkward puns. By the way, is that a Hikaru Ben doppelganger? That could be the most genius invention ever, as someone who plays One Night Werewolf regularly with his kids. You know what a doppelganger is.
Yes, I know a doppelganger, but I don't see the doppelganger you're talking about. And there comes the wambulance, because you're still crying about that Arizona camp in 2006.
I don't even, it was 2007. I'm going to show you this lecture and blow your mind. This is the last game officially of the 5-minute portion, obviously, for those of you who just saw the time run out. And okay, rook d1. I might even sack the exchange. If knight d3, I take b6, and then here comes knight takes c5 with another fork. Oh, here it comes. Come on. Let's get those fork emotes going. Come on, baby. Come on, baby.
E3.
Just take it. Take it. Take it. Come on.
I don't think he's taking it. He's
Come on,
E3.
Maxime.
He's going king e3.
Well, he's calculating it. I'll tell you that much. Let's look at it. Boom, boom, knight takes. You move the rook. I take c5 with check. You couldn't take e5 because I had knight d7. So
he moved. He went king e3.
Okay, he moved king e3. I'm not saying that. Okay, the reason why he didn't do that exchange sack, for the record, is because it was unnecessary. He's winning here.
Right.
But I don't know. That could have been nasty.
But I do agree with you to not care about pieces that aren't your own. So it's, sacrificing an exchange, which is probably still very good for white.
Okay, but here now he's just picking between his favorite Flavor Flavs. It looks good enough. Maxime's going to be taking a big lead here the big, I say big sort of loosely, but it's the biggest lead we've had in the match so far, Robert, obviously, with a 2-game lead, assuming he gets this one.
It's not so easy right now. That's actually the annoying thing if you look at the position here, because the b2 pawn, as soon as I say that, he just goes b4, so maybe it's much easier than initially met the eye. But, I could see a position where you start losing one of your queenside pawns, and then the win gets very difficult. So, okay, I need to move my king from f4. I don't...
No, but knight e3 looks like a fun way to get that check.
Wait, he
now
just
you
lost
can take
his bishop.
c2.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a good decision.
Not ideal. Not his favorite way to finish the slowest portion of our match today, but Dominguez Perez has certainly held his own, Robert, I think you would say, but these last couple of games, you finally saw Maxime show why he's slightly higher rated on the road to 2,800. Your thoughts before we head into a quick break and then the 3-minute portion?
Yeah, that was a very even match to me. I know the score doesn't reflect it with a +2 at the moment, but
well, that's equal. I mean, that's close.
Yeah, but it's, they've only played 9 games, and +2 is a pretty big margin, I'd say. Not as big as we've seen in the past, but what I would say is that Dominguez is spending a lot of time. He's chewing up his clock, and he needs to play a bit more quickly, especially in this game. He had a fine position, and it turned south very quickly as he did not have the time to calculate, and MVL is doing his best to convert his winning edges.
Well, we'll see if the time control gets faster. That's the wake-up call that Dominguez Perez needs to play faster. We will be back in about 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see you soon. The 3-minute portion is getting set to start here in just a moment. And as I bring back my boy Robert Hess, trying to unmute his mic, but apparently he has to unmute it himself. There he goes.
There I am. I'm back. I was just, thinking about what kind of food I wanted. This match is making me hungry, not just to play chess, but to eat some Thai food. But it's been a good one so far.
It sure has. And the fans just joining us, more than 3,000 of you now. We appreciate everybody being here. You haven't missed much because it's only a 2-game lead for the favorite. And that puts us, well, we'll take a look at where that puts us in terms of the stats. We've got some cool little heads there at the end of that fun little line. We can see that Maxime is leading the match both in score and the odds prediction to win the match. But still a lot of time left. I'm interested to see how Dominguez handles the faster time controls, because even if he had a lead of 2 games, if he wasn't ready to compete with Maxime on in Bullet and certainly now in 3-minute Blitz, then this probably wasn't going to be a close match anyway. So it'll be nice to see how he handles the faster time controls and whether the match stays really close. We are off, Robert. See the wizard.
Yep, and Dominguez once again is moving. See the wizard. He's once again moving extremely quickly, and we see this move A5 again. So
what is
I guess
this
it wasn't
line?
I guess it wasn't a one-off idea by Maxime.
You mean it wasn't a bullet mouse slip? That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and he's doing it once again. And while white gains a typical space, I guess he's going to go knight to b4. Knight d4 is a pawn sacrifice that I don't know if you want to make in this position. Sometimes it is thematic to do so.
Yeah.
He went knight e7.
It's a more traditional King's Indian idea, right? Wants to move the knight and punch f5.
But it's a bad King's Indian, because in the King's Indian, you want to have a light score bishop for yourself. Otherwise, your attack doesn't go forward. And so now, I don't know. But
I'll play devil's advocate to that. It's a bad King's Indian because the light square bishop's gone, but black has already established a5, which prevents b4 and sort of slows down the attack that normally is much faster for white over there, right?
Yeah, but rook b1, he just played. I mean, just go a3, b4. It's not like you're really...
Well, I think the main thing is if black can find a way to take a more positional approach, he's not necessarily relying on a mating net to compete with white if he can find a way to slow down white's attack. But I agree. No, it looks like white will get b4. Black will probably just play b6 at some point to slow down c5. No.
Whoa. So that is...
Whoa.
So,
this is theory. This is prep.
I don't know about theory, but it definitely makes sense, because when you put this pawn a4, you stop white from pushing on the queen side. You can always take this knight on c5, but it's really hard to see a way to get to this a4 pawn.
Well, I was going to say, let's look at the analysis. Why? Why can't I just take this a4 pawn now?
There's a rook and a queen protecting it.
Oh, I was testing. Very good. You're paying attention.
I was like, I don't know what to say here, but
you're doing great. That's what you need to say.
All right, I appreciate the support. He goes knight b5, and if knight d6, is he just going to trade off the knights and say that my knight is better than your bishop? I don't agree in this position. So, okay, he does it. So I guess you have to go b4 now. And not, all right. So
yeah, this has been a game that is very hard to predict their moves. Okay, now he gets b3, which is not the wrong idea. The b file is going to point out that black has a backward pawn on b7.
Well, that's why I didn't like h6. I wanted to play b5 instead. I think that, Maxime is making the sort of typical idea.
But I guess the point is that a3 is going to be just as weak as b7, though.
It is, but I think b7 is the more valuable pawn. Because once my rook gets the 7th rank, you're not going to be very happy with the consequences.
Right.
And once again, look at my knight, look at your bishop. If you go rook f7, I always have knight h4 as an idea. And you're not going to be very happy if my knight lands. So knight h4 right now looks great.
Yeah.
You're not going to be happy about your light squares on the king side. So if you go king h7 there, I go e takes f5, you take back on f5 with your pawn, I go queen h5, and I have an attack. So he played rook b6, which I think is perfectly fine, but it does kind of force black to retreat queen d7, which is a useful move anyway. So I really like the move knight h4 to be played there. I think it actually won some material. Maybe not material, but it does force black into a tough spot. So rook a6 played. So if you take and go knight h4 now, I think that also looks good. Just play knight h4. Do me a favor. Do it.
Do it. Just do it.
He's doing it.
He's going to take and play knight h4. He hurts you, baby. No.
Okay, well, after queen takes e3, then will he play knight h4?
If you beg.
I'm begging.
If you beg.
No, but I mean, realistically, if you look at the quality of this bishop on g7, and you look at the quality of the knight once you play knight h4, if he plays knight h4, then you'll... Oh, that hurts so much to see happen.
I don't understand either. I mean, as much as I make it my job to try to disagree with you and be wrong, I think knight h4 was just very straightforward. And as you said, as he said, everybody, was to take and play queen h5, and the attack commences. So, yeah, I mean, Maxime's position feels much better now that there's no clear way to take advantage of the weak light squares.
Right. And the bishop is still quite bad. So knight g5 check ideas don't work yet. I was like, oh, can I get my queen onto the h file quickly? No, it can't happen. But what if I play h5 as white? Saying if you had to play g5, okay, he plays rook b6, which also makes sense. But at some point, if I play h5, you play g5, I move my knight away, and then I go queen g4 and take over the light square. So that's another idea worth consideration. The black king is not so happy in these positions here. It can get into harm's way if you're not careful. But I liked h5, knight d2 with the rook on b8 because the rook at least was menacing on that rank, whereas now on b6 it's sort of just sitting. The bishop is coming to f8 regardless, so d6 is well defended. Yeah. So he goes for h5, knight h2. Okay, he's going to get his queen to g4. Knight f1 here, of course. And how's this a pawn? a5, I'll put my rook behind it, rook a6, and then I'll go queen g4. And there's no way that black can move this rook from f7 without giving up at least the draw by perpetual check. So I actually think that white's doing
well.
What?
f3 was interesting.
Well, the reason I don't like it is now I'm going to go king g2, and my knight's immediately going to go to f5.
Yep.
So
it was hard to prevent the queen g4 idea coming.
Right, and he was worried about that. Understandably concerned about it, but
yeah.
I don't think this helps that much because. So, what if I go rook a6 here?
Yeah.
And now I can go queen e3, right, and trade queens. Oh, I guess this is also good. But I thought queen e3 forced an exchange of queens because the a3 pawn was hanging there. Oh, c4 would have been lost, and you didn't want to give that up. So what about queen a4 now, and this queen knight to e8? Yeah, queen a4 is just...
Love it. You could play knight f5 first, too, but you don't want to allow rook b2 and maybe some sort of crazy sacks on f2 with a perpetual.
Yeah.
Yeah, so queen a4 makes the most sense.
So, okay, am I getting mated? No. So queen d7 check, good first check. Now rook a8, rook g1 check. My king goes to h3 to g4 to f5.
Oh, look at that move, g4, though.
Wait.
Oh, my God. What?
Now queen g1 to g5. What's going on here? Queen g1, king f5, queen g5 check, king e6. Where's the check after that? So rook h5. Oh, of course, rook h5. King f6 only move.
Because king e6 would have been queen g6 mate, everybody.
Yes. And now queen g5, king f7, queen g8 check. Looks like a draw by perpetual. Queen g8, queen g5. That is unbelievable. A really big missed opportunity. Wait,
Whoa.
That's the wrong square.
He went to the wrong square.
And now a3 falls. Or rook a3, and now white is winning. Wow, that was...
I wonder if he was trying for the win as black, or if he just missed that queen g8 was better.
I think we haven't been paying enough attention to the clock, where MVL is 3 seconds left. So here, rook g1, or rook h1, I guess it doesn't matter. Now king g6, rook g1 check, and then play rook g5. Yep,
He's got it.
Perfect.
And Leinier just answered our question big time. Who would be better with the time controls getting faster? Not to say that one game does that, but at least he showed that he can keep up just fine with both sides sort of living off the increment.
Yeah, and for everyone who's in the chat here, it's so much easier to be in our position here because I'm not even looking at the clock part of the time. I didn't notice that MVL had no time, so I can sit and think and then see the consequences. MVL is there just like playing with 4 seconds left. It's really hard to figure it out. So people are saying, what a miss by MVL. And, yeah, it's tough. Robert, please, what did I do?
I have no idea.
It said something about the mic. I don't know.
Well, you have the same mic as I do, so I don't know if it's me or you right now. It's not me, it's you.
It's always been me.
No, it's actually me in this case.
Yeah. I don't know if it's hopefully we can just get back to the chess here.
Yeah, let's just focus on the chess.
All right. So bishop g2, turned my head in for that. So I guess b5 is the idea because the rook on c2. And after b5, the rook on c2 is hanging. So if you move your knight, you're going to lose your rook. But white can just allow that capture to happen on c4. So playing a move like, I don't know, I would even consider rook g1 here. I was going to say king g1, but rook g1 allows the things to happen down the g file. Yeah, and play king h1, but wait, what's going on here? Queen f5 hits the rook on c2 and the bishop on f3, so it looks completely winning for Dominguez now. Queen takes c2 here. What just happened? I looked away for a second, and all of a sudden, oh, he missed the queen g5 move, taking on c2, and now just rook takes c8, and black is up 1 pawn, and the white king is unsafe. So just go rook takes c8, and the knight on c4 is, where's that going? You go knight e5, I go knight e4. You go knight d2 here, I go still knight e4, I think. So, okay, rook c2 now. And Dominguez doing very well here. Queen g5 now hits the knight on d2, and the knight can't move because there's mating attack. Play queen f4, similar idea.
Yeah, black is just crushing here. It's over. It's over. Knight can't move without f3 falling. Yeah, talk about a comeback. That's 2 big victories in a row in the faster time control to bring it where we are, deadlocked at 5.5 apiece. Okay, for those of you who are wondering, the match is not going to not be close. Double negative.
I like what you did there, Danny. I mean, 5.5, 5.5, completely level after 2 games of the 3-minute segment. And this position in particular with control over the c file, I was going to say b4 makes sense here. So black tends not to be too scared along the c file because black can play c6. Now you don't really want to play c6 because white won't play for b5. White might play for a5. So that's why black played it himself. White should play b5 in response. Take means that the c pawn will remain on c7. And yeah, this pawn on the c file is not a happy camper. Just is tough to work with, to work around.
Yeah, I mean, this is potentially going to be his third win in a row here if he's already much better out of the opening.
Yep. So now the question is, I mean, I want to take on f8 because I don't like the quality of my bishop otherwise. And if I take on f8, how do I actually make progress? I want this knight to move from d7. So something to consider for white is actually eventually moving your knight from f3 to try to go bishop g4, which provokes f7 to f5.
Yeah.
Because provoking that, well, now bishop takes d6. You can take with the c pawn. Is that possible? I don't think so.
He might do it to eliminate the weakness on c7, but then he'll have new problems, I guess. Okay, this is not bad though for black. I mean, MBL was under a lot of pressure. He's wiggling his way out. What
if I take on c8 and play queen c2 and just dominate the c file?
Right, bishop d7, queen c7, and you're just in great shape.
Playing for 2 results clearly.
Yep.
And yeah, this looks. I mean, so
here comes queen c7 anyway.
Or do I make some other move, saying I can play queen c7 at any moment? Is it one of those positions where I don't rush? No, he went queen c7. So take, rook c6. Doesn't that win a pawn?
Yeah, because there's no knight d7, right? Takes, rook c6, knight d7 would hang the d6 pawn. So pretty straightforward.
Oh, so take, rook c6, rook c8 maybe, because the back rank problems. It's one of those reasons why I was thinking of not rushing, the queen to c7, but I guess bishop f5 would have been played regardless.
But even here, though, white can be patient. I mean, what's a move? h3, knight to d2.
Yeah, knight d2 looks reasonable. I guess what happens if I'm going to trade on c7 and play rook c8 as black. And so the question becomes,
how do we deal with the back rank so that we're not worried about that?
But I think I can't stop you from doing it. That's my problem.
But okay, why not h3 then?
So h3, take, rook c8. If you go rook b7, I go rook c8, c1 check followed by rook c2. Okay. And I don't have a very happy bishop on e2.
Right. I have knight g1 at the end of that line, as ugly as that move is.
Oh, maybe you do. I was thinking, so maybe instead of rook c2, I go knight e4 first. I'm trying to figure out the right configuration because I can always go rook a1 to go after your a4 pawn. And if I go after the a4 pawn, you get the b6 pawn. I'm trying to figure out who's got the better end of that deal. Something tells me that black shouldn't be happy there. But right now, I guess I'm also considering, what if I trade on c8? Do I have any way to start trying to win that endgame? But
yeah, that would be the problem is there's no entryway for the knight. Okay, well, maybe he thinks there is. How do you get your knight? Where's he going? b1, c3, and then bishop f3?
He might go f3 and then e4 and take the c4 square for his knight.
Okay.
That would... Well, actually, I sort of like that. And he also can go f4 and put his knight on c3 and bishop on f3, for example. And g5 tries to undermine the protection of the d5 pawn.
Yeah, I was thinking he might just go for a setup like that with the bishop on f3, the knight on c3, and play g5. But MVL is going to relocate the knight to e7 to make sure that's not an issue.
So I like that idea by MVL because this way his knight can't get kicked. And so from e7, you firmly defend d5 pawn. But white still can go forward with king f2, bring that knight to c3. All right, so he plays f5, which does make sense. So I still go king f2. Just
yeah, walk the king up. White is still playing for 2 results. Okay, now both players are getting under a minute, but from a match perspective, MBL is about to lose 3 in a row for the first time and wants to stop the bleeding, even if he can just get a draw. I like this move. f4 opens up the f5 square for the knight, so the d4 is a target.
So f4 is the pawn sacrifice. How can white take advantage? That's what I'm looking for.
But if you play something like bishop d3, black has bishop f5, and a trade might force your knight to a square like b3, and the position is just completely deadlocked.
Right, and if my knight's on b3, I'm just stuck passively sitting there, so that's not good.
Yeah, I like this move f4 just from an active defensive setup. And now Dominguez Perez trying to come up with a winning plan, but under 20 seconds.
So let's see. Yeah, he has nothing. And the thing is, he's not in any danger of losing. Well, now on the clock, he's in some danger. But positionally, he hung the h3 pawn? That didn't.
H3 pawn doesn't matter, I guess. He wants to get the king over to the queen side.
I guess.
Or he hung it. I mean, hey, you asked with a question mark. Was it rhetorical?
No, I mean, that's a serious question. Like, isn't that just so bishop d1? Okay, so they're both ignoring that pawn.
I think there's a plan of white bringing the bishop to b3 that MVL was worried about, and here it comes.
Bishop b3 is good right now. Why didn't you go bishop b3?
Yeah. Does he have some outside idea of taking on a5? What?
Wait, what's this? What if I take on b3?
Yeah, he's just going to... You could even play king e6, and he's just losing the pawn.
Wait.
Yeah, that was a blunder by Dominguez.
Okay, but
I mean,
who's better in this endgame?
He hasn't moved. He's still stone cold, but I think that was just a clear blunder by white.
Yep.
Look at this.
Now
who's better? Probably winning.
Yeah, black is much, much better.
And look at the knight and pawn just have a complete blockade.
So he's trying to go h5 and hope that somehow he survives that, but
white has no entryways.
None. So bishop needs to move. Okay.
Now h6 even. Just create the passed g pawn. Make it simple.
Yeah. Keep the knight e7 for as long as possible.
Oh, wait, no. h6 allows bishop g4 check, and then g takes. So that would
that would be so bad.
That would have been a problem.
But now knight d5 check.
Ah, you missed that.
Knight c3. Yep, that's it. Knight c3, a4. Take a4.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we'll see a resignations here. Resignation. Okay, he's going to go get the h pawn, but too little, too late.
Yep. And resignation.
Wow. Well, I mean, a game that we said he needed to win and stop the bleeding if you were Maxime, but not a game we expected him to be able to win. So this knight to b3 idea was a terrible blunder, and really let an endgame where he was playing for 2 results get away from him.
Yep, and remember the time we said that couldn't lose it for white, and then he lost it. So I regret.
The commentator's curse.
And that was
okay, well, now we're in the same line, so we'll see if Dominguez Perez still... No, he doesn't like knight takes f2. Goes for the original idea suggested by you with knight c5. And at least from the perspective that we didn't feel like the position was bad or that the compensation wasn't there, we just really didn't like his time management. So here he's doing more than managing his time. He's got more time than that he started with.
Yep. And it's one of those things where he spent so much, a minute and a half, you said, at this point, and played, instead of playing knight c5, he went knight takes f2. He learned his lesson. He remembered his prep or whatever he did. And now he realized that there's clear compensation for black and minimal disadvantage. I think that white, still has an extra pawn. You have to work to make sure that, that white doesn't consolidate and make use of that pawn. But for the time being, now knight d5 comes, then bring the knight to f4. Just the a4 pawn's, I guess, hanging in some ways, but I don't really like taking on a4 too soon. Maybe now take on a4.
Yeah, you have to worry about the white knight coming into d4 and then e6 being a target. So, and also if knight a4 immediately, maybe you run into knight b5.
Knight a4, yeah, knight b5, exactly.
Oh, we're going to find out. He's going for it.
So now knight c5 back, or b6. You can't take my knight because rook d1's mate.
Haha. Don't blunder that.
So and g3, I have knight g6, and your knight f3 is hanging. So it looks like
you could play king g2 there.
Yeah, and then I play knight c5 back.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay, I mean, it's still just equal, right? All black did was get his pawn back, so if white kept getting an initiative, I don't know, something like b4, it's not the end of the world. But no, you're right. Here, okay, well, we're going to see. We might get exactly that line. Maybe knight g6 is met by knight g5, hitting e6.
So knight g5, that looks worrisome. So where does the knight go? So I can go to g6, I can go to d5. If I go knight to d5, I stop you from playing b4 in the near future. So I can play knight d5, knight g5, and knight c5, and I protect e6. So perhaps knight d5, you might play knight d4 and come for the c6 square.
Yeah, I was going to say I think knight d4 might be played instead of knight g5. There's also some crazy ideas where I might be taking on a5 with the knight. If I could get rook takes a5 and your knight on c5 has to move and give up the e6 pawn. Just throwing it out there.
Yep. Yep, knight d4 played.
So if knight c5, I was thinking maybe there was this crazy knight takes a5, pawn takes, rook takes. But okay, I think you can move your knight on c5 with tempo on my rook, so it doesn't work.
It looks very interesting, though. That's actually something that was certainly worthwhile, because now when black plays a4...
Yeah, now you're stuck.
Yep, white's pawn structure is stuck on that side of the board, and I don't see how white really makes easy progress. Okay, it's not like white's in any danger either, but how to make progress here. So if you're black, let's try to think of a strategy. If I put my king on f7, I'm worried that at some point, rook f1 will come, and my king is sort of in the center, not in the best way. If I play h6, am I trying to go g5 for black? I mean, that's something to think about as well. And where do my pieces really belong? I don't want to go g6 too badly, because I'd rather get in g5, and g6 seems a little bit passive. So how to maneuver and how to... Ooh, okay, that seemed rushed. The knight b3. So knight takes b3, pawn takes b3.
Yeah.
What about
how can that be good for black? I mean, b3 is just falling. Yeah, rook a3 seems straightforward.
Yeah, I was thinking knight d2, but rook a3 seems, even more straightforward. What was that? I
don't know. I mean, it was almost like a panicked potential time pressure is looming move, and just missed this idea of rook a3.
So when's he going to play g5, I guess is my question. Not now. It still doesn't really help. But
okay, but even rook a3 here. That's what I would play. I think just offer the exchange.
Well, the c3 pawn would be hanging, right? So I take on a3 and then play knight takes c3.
Aha. Yeah. Takes, knight takes c3, and if rook c2, you just go back to d5. Okay.
So now the knight trade happens, and...
But here black is getting counterplay.
Yeah, actually I think that black should be holding here. Just like rook d3 to cut the king off. I don't really want to allow your king to run to e4. So I want... Okay, so when rook a4, your king's not running too far. Your king you check. And after rook e3, I go rook to d2. So it goes king f2, and now king f7. So this king's trying to go through g6 to f5. White cannot play g4 because the f4 pawn is hanging. If you play rook b4, actually, I was going to say I could take you, but I'm not sure I can. If you play rook b4, I don't want to take you.
Yeah, that actually opens the c file, and then you're living in regret town, like you were the other night.
And he did it.
I like this.
So what about
rook on c2?
You know, I was going to say, what about g4 check instead of rook c2? Because you took on g4, rook g2 check takes g7.
Ah,
but this
you
still
are
looks
sneaky.
This still looks good at h3 to stop the king.
Yeah, this is more of a just kind of sit tight. h3, g4. If you can kick him back and get king e4, slowly push black back whence he came.
So h3, h5, and then I'm going to try to go g5 as black. So I think black is getting some compensation here.
What if I want to play... Okay, obviously I can't ever play king f3 without allowing rook d3, but let's say we get h3, h5, and I play rook c3. I know you might look for counterplay, but...
I'll play g5 there.
You're going to play g5, not just sit and wait?
No, I think I don't want to sit.
Ideally, I might just take g5. If you take e5, I have a protected passer, and if you take g5, I have king e4.
What is h4? That caught me off guard for sure.
Yeah, this is... White is closing up his own counterplay over here. What's his idea? He wants rook d3. Ah, he wants the king and pawn ending? Maybe?
So wait, what happens if king g4? Why is the king not going to g4?
I don't see either player winning this endgame anymore without one side blundering. Now king e4. That's why.
So but rook d5. If you take on c7, g3 falls. Or I take on b5 first, I guess. But now rook c6. Oh, look at that move. Rook takes b5. Rook
and the king gets in.
But g3 is falling too. So, wait, no. What was rook b5 check? I didn't like that move.
He's trying to get the rook in a position to guard c7 so he can just push the b pawn. But he doesn't have a lot of time. Only 4 seconds. That may be why he played the move. Yeah, now he can take c7. Yeah, this is... Okay. The wheels are coming off.
Yep, he's about to flag.
Living on the increment, literally. 1 second, not enough. OMG.
Wow.
Wow. Well, that was... slightly surprising. he
Yep.
says, with question mark. I don't know. What did we expect to happen there? And the time scramble, I guess, despite the first game, and the first two games of this time control going to Dominguez, now Maxime has just bounced right back like it woke him up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Dominguez not only won those first two games, but he also, that the game he lost in the third game of this segment, he was much better for the pretty much the entirety of the game, and then he misplayed that ending. So he continues to get good looking positions. So I wouldn't be too worried about his openings. I mean, that last game, we said he improved on his previous game by playing knight c5. But as mentioned, there was an extra pawn. You had to deal with that. And even once regaining the pawn, White still had a very nice pawn structure.
Yeah.
And credit to MBL for eventually pushing through with a win. And so here we see a Maroczy bind structure.
Old school like the old school here.
Yep. And so f4.
But to me, this is a Maroczy bind that lacks a little bit of bite for White. Okay, you're going to get f4, but these aren't the sharpest lines of the Maroczy bind here.
Yeah, so bishop f3, okay. Don't play b5.
Not right away because of e5 discovery, everybody. But the reason I say that it lacks bite is because I look at these positions, I guess just having played some of the accelerated dragon lines for Black, I feel like lines where White's not more aggressive earlier, this is like the ideal setup for Black. And you never, okay, you're going to play f5, but you never play it without consequences because of the dark squares. And unless you're really getting a kingside attack, to me, Black is very comfortable in these particular type of binds.
Yeah, I was wondering if White could have tried for e5 instead of f5 there.
E5. I think in some of those lines, I'm actually, okay, knight e8 is one common move where you just back up and defend d6. But if I can take and play knight d7, if e5 is a target.
I was worried about bishop d5 there with the f5.
Yeah. Okay.
And here, okay, so what's the idea? So Black is going to focus on this isolated pawn.
Yep. Well, first you're focused on c4. You have to. So bishop f3 has a common trap in these lines, everybody. e5 followed by, after d takes, there's rook takes f6, and the bishop on d7 hangs, which is why. Okay, Black stopped that by taking on c4, but now this move, queen e5, actually threatens rook h8. I'm a little biased toward these types of binds as Black. I feel like Black is very comfortable here in actually turning the tables on White.
I completely agree, especially now. What if I just trade queens and play a move like bishop?
Trade queens, play a move bishop b5. You can even play bishop e6.
Yep.
Okay, he plays bishop b5, but seems like Sebastian was poking for a potential weakness in MVL's blitz repertoire here, but he didn't find what he was looking for.
This looks terrible for White.
Yeah, no, this is just not bueno.
So if I take on c4, I win a pawn. Because their back rank is...
Back rank problems.
So, yeah, knight takes f6. I just move my bishop back somewhere, and you lose a piece. Knight f6, I go bishop d3, let's say.
I played bishop e6, but yeah, same thing. The point is back rank along with the knight hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So Dominguez Perez maybe taking a calculated think here to kind of gather himself. He won the first two games of the 3-minute time control, but seems like he poked the bear. I'm not sure if they have bears in France. But, two pieces for a rook. Just move the bishop. Where you want to move it, D3 or E6?
Oh, that's actually clever. Well, with bishop D3, you just lose your
bishop
rook.
D3. Okay, you lose. So you got to go to E6.
Yeah, you can play rook C7, right? And then... Yeah, knight d5, you take on d5 with the bishop.
But he's going to take f... Oh, I thought he was taking on f6, but...
Yeah, no, that would have left Black down.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked, yep.
And White down a piece, excuse me.
Okay, so gets the two pieces for the rook, which should just be pretty straightforward for Black, so...
Yep.
A fancy way to say I didn't just blunder the back rank on c4, but I did.
And the time advantage, too. And
yeah.
Rook b6 is a very precise move because Black could have started with d5, but then White would have rook c6, attacking the knight on f6 and the pawn a6. So rook b6 was showing great precision there. And this is very straightforward. And the reason why is the bishop and knight are such a great duo together. The rook comes to d2. I'll push my pawn to d3. I'll move my bishop from e4. I'll go bishop. I'll go bishop f3 here, and then I go bishop g6. But either way, they just play knight e4 next, and that's a problem. So here he goes rook d4, and okay, rook takes a4. Should just pick up a pawn.
Relaxed Maxime right now. Relaxed
Yep.
Maxime.
And now knight e4 is the threat too, so forking the rooks.
Okay, well, it's time to stop the bleeding if you're Dominguez Perez. 4 wins in a row. 3 wins in a row for MVL. And almost a French, but not quite.
Almost a French. I was worried that French was about to appear on the board, but it has.
We have a French on the show, a Frenchman on the show, but no French openings so far.
Good.
I think MVL knows better than to mess with Dominguez Perez's preparation against the French anyway, even though the colors are reversed. Okay, so we're right back to Svidler's prediction that the 2-on-1 will dictate who's better in this endgame, and I think that this is exactly the game we've already seen. So both sides decided they weren't satisfied with what happened or how they played. I like that. I'd like to see that because we were talking a lot about this position last time, everybody. Black's 2-on-1 potential. Okay, Dominguez Perez is the first person to vary. In the last game we had here, everyone, Black played the move b5. So
I'm a little confused why rook d7 wasn't a good move last move. Like he went king f8, but I thought rook d7 just hit the pawn on d4.
I think you're right. I think these guys are both playing pretty fast, given that the last time they played this was in the 5-minute portion, and they took a lot more time to play different moves. So interesting decision.
Yep. So rook c3 played. Okay. So if knight b2 looks weird.
You have to either move the knight or the rook, though. Bringing the king in fails to bishop a6.
Yep. But where to move your knight to?
Yeah, I think the time management by Leon Bees tells us that he missed that move because he might just have to settle. Yeah, he settles on retreating the knight, but b5. b5 feels good. Take away both c4 and a4. Threaten a5 and a4. You like?
a5 also looks good, right? So both of them.
a5 might have allowed knight a4, I guess, but then you were going to play rook d3.
Oh, I just move my rook back and then play b5 next move.
Okay. All right, fine. Well, he chose my move, Robert.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing.
It's always a bad thing. You can say it.
I disagree with that. But okay, now a5. Sack that g pawn.
A5.
Because actually a5 threatens to win a piece. a5, rook g5, a4, and if you go bishop d1, I have a3 and your knight's trapped.
Yeah, this is rough.
That's a hilarious way to trap the knight.
Yeah, definitely.
So if you're MVL, do you take on g5 and after a4 go knight takes a4?
I think you do at this point. It's not a bad idea. You get 3 pawns for the piece, and at least in Blitz you have very good drawing chances, I think, for white.
Hard to see you lose that endgame.
Yeah, I think he read your mind, Robert, or just recognized that he shouldn't go for this line anymore. Whoa.
Wait, so a takes b3?
You still have to sack the piece, I guess. Maybe take with the rook. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, so he's doing the same thing.
Yeah, he wasn't taking on b7, everybody, because this is too much to handle.
So rook c2 check. The only way that black can be better is if you keep the rooks on the board. Not better, but have any winning chances. So he plays it. Now bishop a6 is coming. Okay, he did
But
it.
in a practical sense, it's okay. I think black is the one playing for a win in a classical game, Robert, but this is not easy at all for black.
Well, my next one is e5 for black because I'm threatening rook e2 checkmate. And if you take on e5, I take with my knight, and now my knight's active all of a sudden. I think that, well, look at the time situation as well. MVL down 40 seconds on the clock. This is Dominguez's chance to get back into this game here.
In the match, yeah. Okay, he plays a3. He's just going to sit tight. He plays a3 because he wants to move the knight, everyone, and not allow rook takes a2.
Wait. So bishop c4. Aren't I go bishop c4 and rook c3? Yeah, bishop c4 just wins.
Bishop c4, rook d7.
Rook b7, I go rook c3 anyway, and he's played it.
Yeah, I think he just missed this.
And once I take on d3, I take on d4 next.
To be clear, Crypto Chess, as you troll me, I said everyone last time, not everybody. Reset the score. Or pay attention or don't troll. All right.
So rook, no. Let me think. If I take on d4 with the rook, that might make it more difficult. So it takes the pawn. And, okay, it's not over quite yet, but your rook is not going to be able to stay behind my passed pawn because king e8 will kick your rook away, and then I'll play rook c3 and push my d pawn. So actually this looks pretty bad.
Yeah,
So,
straightforward.
So
rook d2 check, play d3.
Bishop e6 actually might be even more precise, and he played it. And the reason I was saying that is you don't give rook c7 with a tempo. And now king e7.
King e7, e5. I liked the bishop there because it allowed me to play d3 more aggressively, and then I could swing the rook to the a file, d2, bishop b3, and queen. But okay,
I thought it was going to go bishop b3 to d1 here and just win your f pawn, but I don't know if that's. Yeah,
you also have f6 actually.
Oh, f6 is
he didn't go for it, but maybe f6 was another fun way to just undermine because f4 would have allowed bishop takes g4.
But then you're trading. Oh yeah, then I guess I can't take on.
I mean, again, black is still winning, but he didn't convert. To me, converting the d pawn was by far the fastest road to victory, and now.
So if you go rook takes a4, can you win that? So take.
Rook takes a4, take.
Well, he didn't go for it because he's going to put his bishop on.
Yeah, it would. It should be winning for black though, because I don't think white can force the trade of pawns. But so from my perspective, this hasn't been the cleanest way to win a piece here. Now white can play the rook to c7, try to play king g5. Okay.
Yep, rook a4 played, and he's, let's see, so g5, king g7. I think your king needs to stay on g7.
King g7, and then you put the bishop on the b1 h7 diagonal.
No, but then the king just goes back from f4 to g4. So let's see. So king e5.
So how do you win then?
Bishop c2 for sure.
Bishop c2, and then I can't just sit. Yeah.
Yeah, because you go king f4, I go king d6. And the point is, after you go g6, I always have f6. Yep. My bishop comes back.
And as long as your bishop stops the pawn, it's an easy win.
King d6. Yeah, this is winning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, should be winning now. Okay.
So in the end, it doesn't even matter.
Hey, oh, look at you. Whatever happened to those guys anyway?
Look at Dominguez getting back into it.
Shout out to Chess.com RU coming through with the cheer.
So we have a 2-game lead for MVL now.
Yep.
And now people are happy about Lincoln Park reference. And
yeah, we haven't had a Lincoln Park reference in a little while.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Chester, he committed suicide.
That's right. So, rest in peace.
Yep.
They hadn't created anything for a while, which is too bad.
Excellent band from at least
from our youth.
Yeah, yeah. Now back to the chess, though.
So we're back in that same King's Indian where Dominguez Perez was much better as white, didn't opt for your knight h4, much to your chagrin.
Yep.
And eventually MVL swindled himself to a draw that he missed and then lost. That's a fun summary. But you really highlighted an instructive point that this whole plan with f5 is just not nearly as effective without the light square bishop for all kinds of reasons. Here you would have the light square bishop trying to pop into some of these squares. Also, I was just about to say, you have the weakness on e6 that's even worse without the light square bishop. So Maxime went back to a last game that I think he regretted, that blitz out into the endgame where black had the 2-on-1. And I have a feeling he might regret going back to this opening after this game.
Yeah, I don't really see what he's going to do right now because you'd ideally like to play bishop h6, but I think knight e6 would have been favorable for white. Now you see these trades happening here.
White's just a little better in these types of, okay, potentially much better, but at least a little better here. You've controlled the critical central square, which blockades black's bishop on g7. Black wants to play knight f6 and try to simplify things.
Yep. And the reason why white is, generally speaking, better here is white controls the pawn breaks because c5 is what white's trying to do. And look at the bishop on g7.
Yep.
No particular future. And I wonder if white can play the move g4 here. And the idea is that I kick your queen away and I can't play knight g5 after. because you bishop h6.
Yeah, I was going to say bishop h6, right? Yeah. Ooh, black just trades. So we're going to get an endgame where only white can win if the queens come off. You've got so many pawns stuck on the dark squares that white can both try to manufacture a break with b4 and c5 or look for opportunities that this bishop sort of wiggles its way behind the structure, and c7 is a problem. Interesting that MVL just trades right into this, saying, look, I know I'm worse, I can only get a draw here, but I don't think you have enough despite all my weak pawns on the dark squares.
Yeah, I thought it actually was a curious decision by Dominguez to trade the rooks. I mean, he'd run his king to the center first. He can trade the rooks at any moment. Now there's no way for, well, actually, I don't want to speak too soon. The king is going to run to the queen side, and then you're going to play b4 and try to bring your king into a4 into b5. Still looks like it should be a draw, but I believe that's what white's plan is going to be. So, like, just bring the king out. King f2, king e2, king d3, king c3, play b4, then try to bring your king to b3 to a4. So, he does it. I don't think the move order is particularly important at this point. Well, actually, I don't want to say it too quickly, because now if I take on b4 and play bishop h4, no, you still just bring your king around. You go king f1, e2, d.
Stopping bishop e1.
Yeah, this looks just like it should. I think it should ultimately be holdable and should be a draw for black, because once you ever go c5, I'll play b takes c5, and we trade the b pawns, and there are not enough pawns remaining to.
Yeah. Well, there's just not enough weaknesses too, right? You need another minor piece. You need a knight. You need some way to create weaknesses on the other side of the board so that black is choosing between defending a weak pawn on c7 and pawns over here, and there's just not enough opportunities to create a second weakness here.
So here comes the king, but king has nowhere really to go.
Nowhere to run to, baby.
Yeah, you can just.
Ooh,
okay.
That's a little surprising.
Yeah, was not expecting that move, but I
don't think he needed to play that move. That's the thing. Now this pawn is actually weak for the rest of the game.
But there's nowhere for the king to enter from.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter.
We've seen MVL come up with
f7, sit tight.
Yeah, we've seen MVL come with a fortress multiple times. We saw that earlier that game where Dominguez was black.
Still the best game of the match, in my opinion, so far for those 3,000 of you who came late. Do yourself a favor and back up to see the first draw of the match where MVL swindled a much worse ending. It was brilliant.
Yeah, this is
just a draw. Draw? Always fun to see the computers evaluate these positions as just better for white with no real future in mind. So short-sighted, those machines, so silly.
Yep.
Let's see how high the evaluation bar gets before they just admit it's a draw. Nope, doesn't happen.
So still 2-game lead for MVL here.
With only 14 minutes remaining
in this segment, right before you get to the bullet portion. And I see Pete are saying, Danny, how dare you besmirch the computer?
Pete, there's a market for people like Pete who'd like to spend a lot of time with computers.
Oh, look at Dominguez playing a sort of Peart's defense.
Not sort of a Peart's.
Well, it became a weird version of the Peart's, but I guess he's feeling the pressure, right? He's saying, I'm down by 2.
Yep.
I'm probably the underdog in bullet, so I need to just start mixing things up here while the longer time control still exists. And he played b5, so he's getting active. The problem is your king is stuck in the center.
Yeah.
So,
but this is a typical.
I didn't like bishop takes b5.
Yeah, bishop takes b5 is how things go wrong for white. There's even ideas like knight takes e4 in some of those positions, everybody. But now after they take on d7, black is going to win the pawn back. c3 is weak. e4 is being undermined.
I like black's position.
I think black is. I agree. So where did he go wrong? If we look at the analysis board after b5, white is.
I thought he was going to castle.
I think you should just castle there. Yeah, totally.
Whoa. So you went e5 here. So queen takes c3 is forced. Pawn takes f6. Queen takes f6. Okay, he still has some pressure as the king is stuck in the center.
Yeah, you'll see a move like black's up a pawn, but there's moves like rook b1 or rook e1. Yeah, he goes with the b file. I like that idea. From a practical perspective, despite the fact that this should be just fine for black and the computers would play well, it's going to be hard to play with the king in the center for the rest of the game.
But look at that move, rook b6, closing down the b file. Now play bishop.
Inviting your opponent to fix your own structure.
No, bishop b5 is not great, I don't think, because c4 happens. So maybe bishop f5.
The threat after knight d2 is, well, okay, both knight c4, which would force the b file into white's hands, as well as knight e4 in some positions. So knight d2 is actually a really annoying move.
But my rook on h8 is protected, so after bishop f5, if you play knight c4, I can just go. I probably can just take on b1, honestly, but I also thought I could play rook b4 as well. So
if you take on b1, though, what's the follow-up? I mean,
I take on c2. I'm just taking your pawns.
You're just going all in?
Well, my rook on h8 is protected. Your back rank isn't particularly safe, so I thought that I
like it. Look at you playing accurate chess. I don't mean that as if you don't normally play accurate chess, but
it's okay. You can insult me.
That wasn't an insult. I meant to say engine-like chess, which is,
Well, I just am skeptical that white's actually getting it. So king d8 is probably the safest move.
Yeah.
And he played it.
Yeah.
Just to go king c7 and be all safe. But the point is that the rook on h8 is defended. It's not like white is delivering a mating attack with just one rook. And so I thought that it was possible. So here I would take on b1 again and maybe play queen c3 because, once more, my rook on h8 is defended. You have back rank problems of your own as white. So by playing queen c3, I stop any knight a5 stuff. Okay, rook b4. Now, I don't want to take, right? Rook b4, c b4, queen e3. Ooh, queen e2. Nice.
Look at that idea. Going to go for an attack.
Rook c4 will be the loss, very simply.
After queen a5 check, just game over.
So he missed queen e2. I'm 100% positive he missed that move because he's holding his head as if he's pretty upset, and he should be.
MBL singing along. I won't speculate as to the music anymore.
I have a funny question for you.
Yo.
Since my king's in trouble, can I go king e8 and then run to f8 and g7 if you take on b4?
So you'd be giving me back the pawn, but it's not the worst idea, right? King e8, rook b4, takes, queen takes, king f8. The thing is, though, you're probably still a little bit worse in that ending. I have queen b7 at the end of the line.
But I don't like my king on c7. This is what I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, now you're, especially in a blitz setting with only 30 seconds trying to defend this position. Look at Maxime just crushing through with this attack. But I think you're right. If we back up the analysis board, instead of rook to b4 after knight c4, maybe he already had the time to trade on b1 and play a move like queen to c3 in that position. Something to prevent white from doing this exact idea we see in the game where the queen flipped around to the queen side. I think taking and playing queen c3 might have been the best. And now it's over. Wow. That's a nice finish, by the way. Queen takes b8, knight takes d7, fork emote, goes wild.
Yep, that was a nice way to end that one. So that was a hugely disappointing game for Dominguez, who was playing quite well. MVL, honestly, was just pushing forward, attacking his opponent, and then we saw Dominguez collapse. So ultimately a good decision by Maxime there to mix things up like that. But Dominguez playing quite well. Just things aren't 100% going his way here. So
he played well, but again, it was also what we said when that pawn was first sacrificed. I think we both agreed black should be able to defend fine and be better, but in a practical game, I mean, one slip when your king is in the center can lead to those types of finishes.
Yep. And already we see a pawn sacrifice in this game, right? Because b4 was an option there for. Oh wait, actually it's not a pawn sac. The e4 pawn's protected. Never mind. I'm not, used to seeing the knight over there on g3.
Yeah, this is an awkward spot for the knight so early in this line, but.
So what happens now if a4, b4, knight d5? You take on d5 with the bishop. So the question is, do I play a3 or a4, or just ignore it altogether? I plays a3. So he answers my question. Thank you.
Yeah, defend b4 and then go back to your own ideas. h4. Okay.
So that pawn's either going to be a great strength or a glaring weakness eventually. So knight c5 to e6 is coming.
Threatening e4.
So I would take on f6 here.
Take on f6 and then f4 or knight d5? Knight d5.
No, play b4 and a4. Yep, there it comes.
b4 and a4. I love it.
You fix the pawn on b5 and then you
undermine it.
Rook takes a4 here. This is
problems on a6.
Quite lovely for white. I love that move, bishop c4.
Yeah. Getting surgical. Getting surgical up in this on the light squares.
Love that. That was a really good decision by Dominguez. And someone actually mentioned earlier that Dominguez himself is quite a Najdorf expert. So not surprised to see him playing so well here.
And not afraid to go back to it, despite it being one of Maxime's pet lines.
This looks really bad.
This is just like crushing for white.
Yeah, he could have even taken on d4 immediately, but I like this c3 move. The knight on d5, and we talk about quality of pieces. Look at the knight on d5 versus the bishop on g7.
Queen d3, double rooks on the a file.
Yep.
Should be pretty straightforward. White's just going to win a6, and there's no compensation for black. As they say, white has the pawn and the compensation.
Yep. This is really one-sided game.
f5. Kind of a desperate shot, really, because without the light square bishop, you're kind of only hurting yourself here. Yep. I think white could just ignore it and play rook af1, or you could try a move like f3 if you just want to. But I would say, just go. Okay, just go for the pawn right away.
Okay, I like rook fa1 much more than this, but
because it seems unnecessary, right? The reason I said rook af1 exactly because now that queen became overwhelmed between defending the rook and taking back on e4, but still think white is just much better.
Yeah, I agree. I play knight e3 here, perhaps, and just
knight e3 to come back around, or again, like what's black's next move? Yeah, b5. I love that move.
I was worried about knight f3 check, honestly. Oh, but I can just take and my queen at the
your
g4.
Queen guards g4.
Ah, that's very, very nice.
The point, everybody.
Wait. So if I go knight f3, g f3, queen g5 check.
Queen g4.
No, my pawn's on e4.
Oh, wait. Okay. Knight f3, g f3, you're playing queen g5 check first.
Yeah.
Actually.
Well, rook f3 was played instead. What is this? Does this work?
Wow.
What if I take it?
I don't think it works. I think it's a desperate shot.
Oh, I'm trying to go knight takes f3, knight d2. But so g f3, knight f3 check.
Yeah, I see. Knight d2 forks the queen and the rook.
But then queen c7, you can't stop my passed b pawn. Oh, that's...
This should be straightforward. This is desperate times call for desperate measures. But likely just a bunch of smoke.
Queen d7.
No.
Hold on, how do I defend myself? Okay, so king came with my king.
Okay, you're not even threatening a perpetual, are you? What if I just take on e4 with the pawn?
The queen takes h3
and then f3. My knight guards g3.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? If you take f3, I might even have king f2, but let's say I just take it. You're still not even threatening a perpetual, and I push.
But then I'm going to go h3.
Then you have so I won't do that. But if you take on f3, I think I can play king f2.
Right. So that looks scary to me. Okay, so
yeah, there's actually knight d2 at the end of the line too.
What if I go f4? Oh, he played it. I was about to say the f4 is so sneaky because now if you take on h3 with the queen, I take your knight, and you're not mating me. So that's obviously nice. And if you take on f4, I simply take back on f4 with my knight, and I protect h3. So f4, look at this. Dominguez using most of his remaining time there, 51 seconds.
Figure that out.
Yeah, it's king g2, and now queen c6 or queen c7. Okay, I don't think it mattered.
I guess it did matter slightly, but no. Now he's got knight g4 check. Maybe gain a little time on the clock. A little tickle. No need.
Wait, queen b3 though? This is...
Knight f6, play tickle again. How do you just stop it? Knight g1 was probably the simplest there.
Knight e3, a nice move, just covering everything. Just king takes f1 here. Your knight covers f4, so now pawn takes f4, just take back. Okay, that was too close for comfort, but can you take on e5? I'm trying to think of my... Or can I go f5? No, because f5, queen e2, you don't have f6, queen f3
Yeah,
check.
No, this was right. I liked your idea. Take e5, give up the knight. The knight guards a lot of key squares.
So why didn't he take on d6? I thought taking on d6 was smarter than playing e6, but I guess it doesn't matter. You can't really stop me from queening, I don't think.
Yeah. No, but it may matter. I mean, regardless of the result of this game, I think the way this game has ended speaks a little bit to the match score, Robert, and that Maxime has created a lot of problems for Dominguez Perez, even in games where he was just losing, right?
Yep, and there goes that pawn. Give me a queen. Okay, queen h8 check, and a queen e7 check, and then resigns. Wow.
Ruh-roh.
Wow, and now we're going to have our last game, right?
Should be the last game of the 3 minute right here, unless somebody loses in the next 90 seconds, roughly. But yeah, no, I mean, that game right there was interesting, right? Because clearly Maxime we were calling for his head for quite some time, but that wasn't easy for Dominguez Perez to win. I think it's one of the reasons why we've already seen him swindle his way in a couple games, both a draw and a victory, 2 games he shouldn't have had, right? So you got to give MVL credit where credit's due, even though Dominguez Perez did hold on to get that one.
Yeah, Dominguez was very impressive there, honestly, handling the white side of the Najdorf. It was kind of a nice demonstration for someone like me to see him play like that, coming up with good ideas, and he just played b4, a4. And I know that idea because I've seen it so many times where you cement that pawn on the b5 square and just go after it. So even though he had to give up his bishop in the process, that was totally worth it. And right now we've seen this position again, although I'm pretty sure knight h5 instead of queen c7 was played by Wesley against Crum. Who was black? It is Crum.
I don't understand why MVL is going back to this line. He's had a game that he barely drew, should have lost, and then a game that he lost kind of handily last time. Although this time he's got the pawn on h4 rather than h3, so I guess I shouldn't speak too soon. Black no longer has g5.
He has changed up, which was a good decision for him. And Dominguez understanding that bishop takes e6 was a problem in that other game.
Not going to miss that tactic again.
You just play rook c8 here. Okay, rook c7. I don't think it matters too much. King e7 now.
I still like the stubbornness regardless, even though I'm being critical of it, because I appreciate it when these players kind of say, you know what, I don't care about the result. I feel like this position should be okay for me, and I'm going to go back to it.
Right. And I think it's interesting because especially when they're coming up with new ideas or trying to come up with new ideas.
There's educational takeaways, I think, for the viewers that care about that. You know, you have 3 or 4 games in a line where you could actually look at how the players evolved, what they learned from each game, the common tactics that occurred, and now I actually really like this h5 move. We've talked about pawn structure stuff before. This is a bit of a grip because black can never take here without instantly allowing the potential of a passed h-pawn. So black has to make sure he deals with the space advantage for white. White even has moves like take h6 and then knight f2, knight g4 here. Okay, he doesn't go for it, but look out for the g6 pawn as well for these tactics like knight f2, knight g4, knight takes h6 later.
Yeah, I wonder if you did that and took on h6, played knight g4, this bishop takes e4, if that was the idea.
Yeah.
There's an interesting shot there. And now b4, so okay, you got to watch out for these pawns on the queen side. They do look stopped for now. So now knight b6. Is white going to play knight c5?
Knight b6, knight c5. The better minor piece is... Not sure, right? Probably the knight, though, just given that the bishop is kind of limited in terms of squares that would normally make the bishop better in this type of endgame, but the center isn't open enough.
So you're not actually threatening my bishop on b7. So I can make if I have a useful move, I can make it. So I can play, I took on a4, I guess f5. Wait, f5.
Ooh, f5 is going to open it up and change what I said about the bishop not being open.
And look at that.
I didn't
pawn
see
on
that.
h5.
Yeah, that h5 pawn is a huge glaring potential weakness.
Uh-oh. Why did he take on b7? I guess you could have taken on b7 instead.
No, but then knight to c3.
But then knight takes a5. Yeah,
right. I mean, I guess I just didn't want to give up the passer. I'm still not sure the knight isn't holding his own against the bishop here, but I agree. I mean, obviously you're very worried about these weak pawns on light squares.
Yeah, I think you're in big trouble because your pawn h5 is just... I thought f5 just would have freed my bishop up immediately, so I thought that's why that was a good move. I think f5, in fact, was close to winning on the spot. Now it still looks very good because I'm going to play bishop c4, and then your a2 pawn is in trouble, and I don't really see how you defend it here.
Huh. Well, Maxime.
So a4. Just play a4. If you play knight d2, I think I go b3. A takes b3, a3.
Ooh, that hurts. In fact, that may be happening no matter where the knight goes. Okay, not there, I guess.
Well, maybe if you go B,
even so.
Well, B3, maybe you go A3. That's something I actually think more about. But then go King D6 first. White has no moves. King D6, like where your piece is going to?
King D6, I can't play E5 check. You'll just go back to E7.
Yeah, I can even just take you on E5. And then you move my king to D5. I mean, my king is moving upwards. So,
yeah, I felt biased toward White's space advantage that he had on the king side and the potential there, but
there it is, King D6.
Definitely misevaluated the potential of the bishop being so much better than the knight here. White is suddenly just frozen.
Take it. I mean, King E7 is also good, but I would take it and play King D5.
Take it, King D5. If knight E4, likely
knight
something.
E4, bishop C4 probably.
Well, I was looking for some crazy tactics like knight F6 check.
Oh, you're sneaky, man.
And I want to use what I liked earlier about the fact that this pawn is so far advanced. So,
but I think my queenside pawns, mine being black.
Yeah, I think you're faster, but it's
close. Yeah,
it's a little tricky actually. So, okay, now he plays B3 right away, probably because of ideas like that. After takes, I'm guessing he takes back.
So go A.
But if A3 now, there was knight to C3 check, and the king wasn't getting in.
So knight C3 check, king C4, knight takes B5, king B5, F5, B2. You're too slow. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. No, now he's frozen. He's gonna make like Elsa and let this one go, and we're gonna move on to the bullet.
That might have been your best pop culture reference ever.
It's over.
I'm proud of you for that one. So king D2, black will just go bishop C6, and then bishop F3. Yep.
Even bishop to C6 is...
Yeah, I'm saying bishop C6 to F3.
Yeah, okay. Got it. I thought you said bishop D7, but yeah, bishop C6 holds E4 and threatens bishop F3. It's over. Maxime is doing his best to come up with some sort of potential swindle with very limited time on the clock. Okay. And he did it.
King D5 back. Just go chase that pawn. King E6, king F4, and you can play bishop D7. Or you could just take, and then bishop F3. That's nice, too.
Yeah, he managed to get the pawn without even losing B3, which makes, of course, Black's job very easy and makes our job easy to say that, as we said, it's just a one-game lead. I mean, there's 3,000 people here. Honestly, this is probably the least amount of viewers we've had of any Speed Chess Championship, although by far the best match we've had. I'm excited for Bullet, dude. This is anybody's match. We got a one-game lead with probably about 10 games left to play, roughly.
Absolutely, and Dominguez showing great fight to come back in those last two games there. He started off with 2 wins to even the score. Things started slipping away from him, but then he worked his way back to cut the deficit to 1 game.
No, it really has been, It's been counter blows.
Yep.
2 heavyweight fighters are going to keep going at it. We're going to be right back in about 90 seconds. Don't go anywhere. Go tell your friends they're missing quite the thriller here. The Speed Chess Championship rolls on. We'll be right back. And we restart things just as the players get set. Bullet Chess coming right up. A 1-game lead currently for the favorite in the match, both in terms of rating and our statistics. But if you take a look at the scoreboards, Robert, this has been a back-and-forth affair with Maxime still favored, I guess, according to how we predict these players. Potentially, or as we see it, definitely the better bullet player. But it's been close so far, and Dominguez Perez has not gone away no matter what. So don't expect him to now. I'm ready. Are you ready?
Absolutely, and I think people expected as the time control got shorter that MVL's chances got better. But we did see Dominguez just win that 3-minute segment there. So we'll see. Here's the first bullet game off and running, and Dominguez continuing with his very calm setup. D5, he should just play C4 here, I think. He might not. I don't know what he's spending.
Trying to come up with a weird ready. I was going to say B3, but then he plays B4. Yeah.
Again, that move does make sense. Play B5.
Yep. He was tired of Maxime's A5 annoying line.
Yeah, and he's mixing things up here. You can play knight D2, C4. Okay, plays A4. Knight come to A3. What is C3?
Yeah, he's going to bring the knight to B5, I guess, and then try to infiltrate on the dark squares. Yeah, bishop A3 is coming and D6 is weak. 6 week.
Actually, I like this more and more that I look at it.
Yeah? Okay.
So queen b3. Watch out for knight d2 in some lines. So don't, move your knight from f3 too soon. If you're black, okay, bishop g4 threatens.
And he's going for that. Probably rook d1 just to prevent the idea.
Yeah, rook d1 or c. Yeah, rook c play, rook fc1. His queen can always slide back to d1 if need be. So, okay. Actually, in some lines, you can allow that capture on f3 because the d5 pawn was so weak. But he's playing like this. Play rook a b1 here. And white should play knight.
But here comes black. Not just going to sit tight and let the queen side be squeezed. I love
this for white though. Knight d2 is a very good move. But now the a5 pawn always has to be protected by that knight on c6. Maybe it's not so bad for black, but something looks off about the position. Although I like this move knight b4, of course.
Well, 30 more minutes, everybody. Don't go anywhere. Less than 30 minutes now.
That was a very good decision by Dominguez. So look at this queenside pawn structure, right? A5 and b7.
Yep, completely weak.
And very weak. The backward b pawn is not happy, particularly because that's a 2-in-1 majority. It doesn't look like much of a majority at all. So right now, from white's point of view, play queen. Well, I thought queen's the c file first. Okay, going after the d5 pawn. The king's running over. All right, king d2. Maybe king d2 is queen h2. You have to be careful.
Yeah, you have to be careful about desperate queen maneuvers. Okay, but even now with g4, now you have to be careful about the light square pawns here.
Yep, black can play for f5 actually.
Yeah,
could have done that.
So here comes queen h2, as we said, and they.
Can you take on b4? If that queen, when the queen was on h2, I was wondering who wins the pawn race after queen takes b4. Huh. Okay, draw does seem like a fair result, but
first bullet game is our first peaceful result in a while.
Yeah. So now we see what is on Alyokin defense. We're not expecting that from a player like Dominguez.
Maybe it's something he had ready for the bullet. We should ask him that after. We'll see if it's a repeated effort. But okay, I mean, only a one-game lead, and at this point, still plenty of time to poke around with different openings maybe and see if he finds something that he likes. Although here white seems to be comfortably playing with a slight edge.
Yeah, for sure. And now that's a very committal decision to play g5, knight e4, but at the same time you are taking that bishop off the board. So knight takes g3, pawn takes g3. Oh, he took on f3, wasn't expecting that. So now I want to play bishop b1, queen c2. It doesn't really do anything because my rook can come to h8. So I guess I am in time to defend. And he started with that. Whoa, h5. Okay, I actually really like that because you play h4, gh4, g4. Well, now you can't do that. But now queen h6. Thought I could have started with queen h6, but all right.
This open king side approach is going to backfire. And look at Maxime with as much time on the clock as he started with. So
wait, watch out for g2 square. Knight takes g2. Does that work?
Knight takes g2.
Queen g2 and then rook g4. Okay, barely doesn't work.
Stopping the pin, everybody.
So knight g6 back. And you can't move your rook from d1 to d7 like you'd like as queen c1 check happens. Oh, but now it doesn't work.
Yeah, there's mate there. But here still, I mean, yeah, you did it, and there was no queen c1, but...
So there's no knockout blow quite yet. So h3 for black. Play h3. No, it doesn't do anything. You go g3. I was like just trying to break open the position, but...
Ooh, that's a nice idea. Open up both the bishop and the rooks on the d-file.
Black is stuck here. Bishop takes g6, rook takes f8, rook d8 mate.
Yeah, if rook takes, it's rook takes f8 mate, and if pawn takes, it's, okay, the same thing. So, all right, well, we have our first bullet win there for MVL, back to a 2-game lead, and we see a little bit of why people felt that as the time controls got faster, MVL would be more and more of the favorite. A lot of openings repeated by these two guys, though. Now MVL finally going away from this a5 idea since Dominguez is playing b4. Okay, I spoke too soon. a5 is played.
Yeah, it's interesting that this knight's on b6. So it does stop c4 immediately, but now when c4 happens, okay, I would take on e4 first, but knight d2 and then c4, but maybe it doesn't matter too much. I really like white's position here. You have more space. There's a pawn at c7 that's a backward pawn and a target. This has been a tight match altogether. Just stats fed to us that no one has had greater than a 2-game lead in this match. Although I thought MVL was up by 3.
Yeah, that's not true. MVL had an 8.5, 5.5 lead at one point.
We're being fed false stats.
False stats. Yeah, after Dominguez Perez won 2 in a row in the 3-minute portion, MVL won 3, but then Dominguez Perez came back. So shout out to all nearly 3,500 of you now. Thanks for being here. We've had a loyal 3,000 of you, and probably pick up here as this match is a nail biter, one of the closest matches we've had. Actually, the closest match we've had this year. And thanks for the donations. 68 more bucks than we started with. Remember, any cheers, bits, or donations go directly into the players' pockets. So if you're excited for the match, let them know, and we will tell them afterwards. Bishop.
Yep.
Okay, so white is a little better, but probably not going to have enough.
Yeah, here the advantage is totally dissipated because
bishop
if you
d4
trade on
was
d4,
nice too.
you trade everything off.
Yep.
If you play bishop g5, well, maybe bishop g5 is worth a shot here. But bishop g5, maybe f6. I don't really want to play f6. That's the problem.
Rook d1.
Whoa,
The problem is, I don't know if that was the right transition for white. I mean, this d-pawn is not going to be easy to corral.
Right. So queen b5, I guess. Queen b5 takes. Oh, actually,
okay,
yeah,
but
take
I also have
e4.
queen c3 after queen b5, but then I guess queen e5 was your plan. Kind of irritating.
Yeah, I was going to queen e5 to e7. But if you take on b5, a takes, then I just keep pushing my b pawn, and I take your d pawn. Now queen takes a5.
Okay, the trade. Rook d5 with tempo, yep. And then play d3 next move.
And then a5. This looks...
Yeah, I mean, best play you'd think should be a draw, but these positions are dangerous for both sides potentially. But I like...
Because queen takes d3 is a big blunder to rook e1
1 check, yeah. Don't forget your tactics trainer, kids. Rook takes e1 is coming. Okay.
Queen f4. Sneaky. Queen f3. d2.
King g2, yep.
Oh, rook takes d2 was missed. The rook... No, it wasn't. That didn't work. Never mind. Oh, actually, it did work. But this still also saves the day.
Yeah, okay,
So
he gets
queen
d2
c3
anyway.
check. Queen c3 check. Take on e1. That way you don't have any back rank problems.
Yeah.
And there you have it.
And a peaceful result is what we have. Not enough for Sebastian to get back in this game. Dominguez Perez is going to have to get more than that. But he was under pressure, so happy from that game.
Yeah, still has plenty of time left in the match, 21 plus minutes. So, 2 victories. Not easy against a player of MBL's caliber, but not impossible by any means. And we see this opening once again. I'm never going to see this opening ever again after this match, I hope, because I'm already tired of it. But interesting to see these players keep going at it. So let's see.
Yeah, okay, so here we see a different approach with a much more aggressive use of white's big center. But, okay, maybe it's the right idea to poke at something different, mainly because in bullet, black doesn't have a whole bunch of time to try to come up with the right approach. But we haven't seen MVL get a lot of success in this line yet.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I go e takes d5, rook c to c8, just to defend my e8 rook, then am I worried about d6 happening? Not really sure. You're going to go knight d4. That's the annoying thing.
I like this move. I was thinking about that idea. You can't do it after taking because the e file would have been open. But I really like this idea to kind of call white's bluff. f6. Guard. Okay, he goes for it immediately, which I guess also makes sense because now there's no knight e5. You can take f3 and then slowly try to play for f6 and undermine the protection of the d pawn.
Yeah, I'm not sure though, because if you take on f3 gf, then f4 happens, and it seems like it's
plus white has the g file in some positions.
And also look at the time. I mean, MVL's up 4 or 5 seconds right now. And
Dominguez Perez falling for the trap of actually trying to play the best approach here.
Yeah, pawn takes. I think you had to take on e5 there.
Bishop c6.
f5. No, f5 doesn't work for white. I want to play f5, e6, e7, but I don't think that quite worked out.
It's a strong move, rook e3, because in a lot of lines, white will have the rook coming to the f file.
Okay, so somewhere rook c7 is going to be pretty devastating. Not yet, I guess. And knight e takes f6 wins a pawn, but then knight takes f6. And,
but now f5.
Wow.
Feels good. If knight takes everyone, he's going to take e6 with check and then probably sack the exchange.
Yeah.
2 pawns.
Or just play e7, right? I mean,
okay, e7 immediately, yeah, but rook takes
right.
e5.
Yeah, rook e5 also, then e7, then rook c8 at the end.
Yep.
Rook takes e5.
Rook takes c5, pawn takes, rook c8. We trade on c8 and d7, d8. Can't stop it. Okay.
Oh,
I guess that also works because of bishop h5 and discovered check. Owie. Yep. Oh, man. That was nice. So, interesting to see Maxime's approach there, to go back to an opening that he didn't get a lot out of, but taking a completely different tactic, and it catches Dominguez off guard.
Yep. And, well, he's not caught off guard with this opening. We've seen it many times. And this version seems, once again, to me, favorable for white. But, wait, what? Knight b4.
Yeah, this is weird.
Okay. Still solid enough, I guess. Well, f4 now. So Dominguez is feeling the pressure of the deficit. So he's kind of not going all out, but he is really trying to win this game, clearly. Wait, his rook on f4 is kind of bad. So I'm worried about it getting trapped. So g5, does that trap the rook? I guess g5, you can go rook f6. So trying not to blunder too badly here. And there's g5, and there's the rook trap.
Yeah.
I was waiting for the moment, just the rook had no moves.
And MBL starts singing.
Yep.
That's funny.
Or
maybe he just said, I like rooks. I don't know. I'm not a lip reader. So
he's gonna go
that's
E6
actually a lie.
here?
I am a lip reader. But okay. Another time. Rook e1. Doesn't matter.
So queen e3 now.
I wanted rook e1 to stop queen e3, hoping for
Makes
some
sense.
desperate compensation despite being down the exchange. Very nice. Knight takes b4.
Ouch.
Just
Ouch.
cleaning up with accuracy is the Frenchman.
Yeah, it's one of these moments where Dominguez doesn't have as much experience playing in this format. He should probably just resign and save time so he can win the next bunch of games.
Because every second that goes by on that total game clock, where we're now under 17 minutes, worsens his chances. So
yeah, this is over.
I think he'll resign now. Nope, he won't. Rook takes f3. I guess you do have queen g2 at the end, though. It's probably a winning rook ending. Yeah, he goes for it. Take h3, then... Oh, I thought he would... Okay, this also works.
Yeah, he's only up, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 pawns there? Yeah.
Okay, but the right decision. Don't try to hold a losing rook ending and take another 3 minutes off the total game clock. Just move on.
All right, so we see another Alyokin. Surprising me no longer because he played it already. And it's a very solid setup. Not bad for Bullet because it's, your setup foundation is very
solid,
concrete there.
And the moves sort of are you almost play the same type of setup no matter what white's doing. I mean, obviously, that's not totally true, but yeah, that's one of the advantages of playing this type of system.
Bishop takes f5. Okay, so knight takes e5, takes rook d8 maybe. You just got to play fast.
Got to play fast, but Maxime's playing faster, so 3,000 plus isn't easy to do, but he maintains it with regularity. So up to 3,026 now.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad. I mean, not great, but
he's decent.
he's decent.
So black should no, never mind. I was gonna say b6 c5, but then I stopped liking it. But maybe it's worth. Yeah, he's playing for b5.
Well, we're getting into that territory now with under 15 minutes to play that Dominguez has to start getting points back. I mean, I know that's thanks Captain Obvious, but the point is it's we're almost out of time mathematically.
Yep, knight a2. That's hilarious.
Yeah. The problem is you're still worse in the ending here. Yeah, d5 and white's in control. Plays c4. d5 is passed. b6 is weak.
Yeah, this is ugly. Total control of the e file. As you mentioned, b6 pawn weak, d5 pawn strong. So c4 trying to get some counterplay by queen c4, rook bc8.
Yeah.
Good practical decision. Gives you the best chances to hold.
Yeah.
In an
always be willing to part with a pawn if it makes your pieces much more active in the rook endings like this.
Yep. So C3 is weak. A4 is a potential target.
But he's up on time again. I mean, play King G2. Okay, he goes for D6 immediately, and there may end up being 7th rank threats. But I expect Maxime to get another one here, mainly because of the clock. Here comes check, followed by queen right back to D4, and watch out. H8's a problem. That's it, actually. That was surgical right there. That was that feels good, man. Or feels bad, depending on where you're at. Yeah, I apologize for my stuffy nose cottonmouth. I am fighting a terrible cold, so thanks for bringing it up. Really appreciate it. So,
adding insult to...
You're lucky I've been muting myself. Only Robert's had to hear me when I've really been sneezing and coughing.
Yeah, I've heard those.
So,
I thought they were endearing.
Thank you. Well, I couldn't mute my sound to you as well, so I'm sorry.
No, I forgive you.
Five-game lead, though. I mean, this is really amazing. The one thing to everyone in the chat, remember we have interviews coming up, so give us a question. If you have questions for us, whether it be hardcore chess for some of the more advanced players, have a specific question about how the players approach this, or if you want to ask what music Maxime is listening to or anything else, let us know. And we will try to make note and incorporate those questions into our interview in the next 12 minutes.
Yep. And this game, Dominguez's position looks very good. Knight D5 winning. Oh, no. I thought it was winning, but I forgot the queen go to D8. But this looks so good.
So good for white. So
Take
good.
on G5, winning upon.
Mugatu is so hot right now. F4, I love that. Bishop D3. Okay, here we see Sebastian. He's going to bounce back here. This is going to be a problem for black. Grab the F file. There you go. Grab it. There you go. Spy on that. Everyone's favorite.
I thought Queen E6. I thought Queen E6 was even better.
King B1.
Wait. Oh, G5 is not hanging. I was like, wait, that
don't
hanging.
back rank yourself with Rook takes F8. Oh my God! I just called it. Oh my gosh! I just called it, and with it the backbreaker. Oh, he shakes his head. That
You're the worst,
actually hurt my throat too when I was like, oh my God!
What is your problem?
Dude, I said don't take it and back rank yourself.
That's the commentator's curse.
I didn't say. Don't blame this on me, Robert. I'm one man. Oh my gosh! Well, that's your fault. That's it, though. That's the match. I didn't jinx it. I said don't do it. Man, wow, you guys feels bad for me right now. You guys need to leave me alone.
That was pretty awful.
Wow. Yeah.
Someone just called you clairvoyant. That is the nicest compliment you've ever received. Taco Nexus.
Oh man. Well, that's tough. And in all seriousness, this has been a much closer match than what it looks like the final score is going to be. Obviously, those of you who've been with us the whole time, you know that. You can see it was a 2-game lead for MVL after 5 minutes, a 1-game lead after the 3-minute, and unfortunately, though, the bullet prowess is coming out. As we know, there seems to be an elite group of bullet players, and Maxime is among them.
Yeah, I would say that at this point, it's... Wait a second. That knight on G5 is trapped? No.
Someone just clipped it and called it the back ranker. I think I said back breaker.
Yeah.
With great commentary comes great responsibility, Estashin. Great responsibility, but I'm not taking the blame for that one. I've taken the blame for many, but no. You know what? You got to remember that.
I'm not going to blame you anymore, but I will say that MVL is showing very good bullet skills.
But again, I mean, in all jokes aside, I mean, Maxime has created problems for his opponent even when he's just been down and out, and there's been a couple games that were stolen, right? We've talked about that, and I think that's the sign of people that are really comfortable in this format, regardless of whether you're on form that day, Robert, right? We know class is permanent, form is temporary, but even the guys that aren't on form, they just tend to make it hard for their opponent. You know,
right?
And I think Maxime has done that today and stolen a few games because of it.
Yeah, and actually, by Speed Chess Championship history, MVL is the third ranked player in that. Well, it's been a relatively short history because it's in the third season, but he's third behind Magnus and Hikaru. So that's a pretty good place to be. And whoa, this is, speaking of good place to be, E takes F3, Rook takes E7, F2 check is also a good looking spot to be in.
Yeah. Looks like...
How many pawns is black up?
Looks like he's going to get one. There you go. Bouncing back, getting a big victory there. Only 9 minutes left. Probably not enough time, but still Exciting games.
For sure. And, well,
being the second best commentator on this stream is probably the best compliment I've ever been given. So
someone said that?
Yeah.
That's just rude.
Yeah, I think it's true. Why do you think we have you here? And as long as you keep accepting chess pieces for payment, we're going to have you forever. So.
Oh, well, as long as those chess pieces are made out of like 16 karat gold, I'll continue to accept them as gifts.
That's funny.
So here, well, the pawn on d5 is either a great piece or a terrible pawn, but actually I love it because this move queen d4 was nice.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I mean, this is another game that he should get. And honestly, if you take back the one he just blundered back rank, this could still be a closer match. But
so let's see. Sacking the pawn back. We just talked about that for the activity. Sometimes it's good to give back material.
Yeah, b4. I love that.
Well
get back. Get back, beast. d6. Yeah, this is. I mean, honestly, this is going to be something that I think kind of makes Maxime wake up. But if he loses this one, okay, still going to be tough. But he's not out yet. Knight g4. Knight g4 threatened knight h6. Oh,
taking b6. He's going
goes for the simple approach.
Yep. And I thought he was going to go b5 there. He didn't. Now knight c7.
c7 wins material, the rook, and the bit. Ooh, why doesn't he play knight c7? Seems like he missed a couple of stronger knight moves there, but should still be winning. Okay, so rook takes c7 was not actually a threat because of knight d5, but now he just let MVL back in this game for missing those two knight shots, honestly.
Look at him just doubling on the 7th rank. That is cruel.
Yeah, that hurts.
It looked like Black was about to get back in this game, but all of a sudden... So your knight g4 move looks good now as well.
Yep.
To go to e5. Yeah, it is played. Yep. You protect f2, you go to e5, you stop rook f6. Because rook f6 was a good way to defend that f7 pawn.
$20 says we see a checkmate in this game. You want to bet?
What did you say?
$20 says we see a checkmate in this game. Not a resign.
You think we're going to see... Whoa.
Maybe not anymore. No, take it back. Too late. You didn't take it. You didn't take it. You didn't take it. I thought he was going to move the rook and then allow the rooks to get doubled and go for a mating net. But, hey, you missed your chance, man.
I didn't even hear what you said at first. I had to clarify.
You got to be quick with me, man. Got to be quick. I do.
And, dang. All right, so now's a 4-game lead. Dominguez realistically does not have enough time to come back. If MVL sits and loses on time in any game, well, it takes up a full minute off the clock. But, of course, MVL is not going to do that. He'll just play, and that in and of itself takes up a lot of the clock. So knight d7, good move.
No, but seriously, I mean, dude, take back that back rank mate, and it's 15-13 right now.
True.
I mean, it's really going to come back to hurt him, even though he nodded his head, and I think both players felt like, okay, well, is this over? Is he on tilt? But he's not on tilt. And, I mean, he's just better again as Black. This is a bad Benoni for White. I know that's like, redundant to say bad Benoni, but...
I agree with you.
Yep.
I'm not much of a Benoni guy.
And in the end, he's better again. Bishop pair.
Yeah, it's...
I mean, seriously, this is like, you're really going to start regretting that...
But if you... Yeah, he can take on b3 right away.
But you can back up the bishop here, yeah. b3 is going to fall at some point.
So move your bishop.
Bishop a7 even? No, okay.
c5?
Didn't want to allow rook a1. Aha, okay.
Knight f4, great way to protect c5.
Fork town, don't take c5. In fact...
Actually, you could take c5 and run your king to d6.
Oh, that would have been sweet.
Now knight g6 check and rook e1 to follow is Dunzo.
Man. And that's going to stop the bleeding for MBL and pretty much cinch the match. Okay. Back to a 5-game lead, under 5 minutes. Definitely interesting. I'll start paying attention if there's any questions that you all would like us to ask. But I think MBL is going to be moving on at this point, although it has been a super exciting match.
Yeah, it's starting to pull away with it. We see his 7-3 lead thus far in the bullet portion. That's really told the tale. There were some missed opportunities for both, but at the end of the day, it is that difference in this time control that will see MVL move on. But he's going to have to be better than this against Hikaru Nakamura, whom he's to face in the second round. So, it's not all peachy for MVL. He's going to be a little bit upset with himself, but also he just came back from Beal, where he stormed back. He started -2 and ended up +1 in the event. So, got to give MVL some credit for coming right back from Beal, taking a train.
He literally got back on the train an hour and a half before the match, and I may or may not be able to confirm pre-match conversations with Maxime to say that he may or may not have had a very long night last night. So well, impressive overall. He wouldn't make the excuse if he lost the match, but I can say it that he was. They had a good time, as you should when you end a chess tournament.
Yep. So let's see, knight to e5. So white should go e4, I assume, to get that bishop out. Now knight c. Wait. Rook c8 came, and your bishop on c1 is lost. It's sort of tilt time for Dominguez here. He, he's out of the match regardless, but this is not helping at all. So knight, he just lost here. You can't protect your bishop on c1. Black, despite temporarily being down a pawn, is winning this bishop, and that's game. So bishop f3, just b6, just ignore it. And won their resignation.
6-game lead, 2 minutes left. It's all over, but the crying. It's not a Duma, but it is over.
Yep. And Dominguez is such a nice guy.
He really is. And again, this has obviously been a much closer match than the final score here. And I think, if he doesn't blunder that back rank and it gets in within a couple games, I mean, who knows? Maybe the nerves kick in for MVL, right? So really tough when you lose a game like that. But obviously Maxime showing his bullet class. And it's a very... There's so many people that are really good at bullet, that play online, that stream regularly, whatever. And then there's guys that are just like on another planet,
Yeah, total monsters.
Yep. Magnus, Hikaru, MVL.
I don't know. I don't remember Sergey's 1 minute skill, but I know that Karyakin obviously is a blitz beast. So.
Yep.
So how many games have been played here so far? 30. It looks like the Carlsen-So match was 37. That this match will not break the record for most games played. That's for sure. 37. That's a lot. And all right, so here knight takes g4. So what's the idea for white? You would love to play d5, trade off the dark sword bishops, and lead to a check. No, d5 now is just begging to be played. So play d5, trade those bishops, and mate along the dark square. That seems like a good strategy.
If this game ends quickly in a mate, it will not be our last game. But potentially, if it goes on, this could be the last game.
Yep. Rook takes a3, queen b2 is check. And after the king moves to g8, you go queen f6, and then knight h6 check, and f7 falls. And okay, knight f6 check should be good as well. Rook e1, that's a classy move there, saying that you're not going to threaten rook a2 here. And instead, so knight a5, you saved the day. So maybe this game is turning around really quickly. I thought that white was just winning, but all of a sudden your knight doesn't have a discovery square because knight d7 check, king g8. You can play knight h7 check, knight f6 check.
Yeah, but it might just be a draw, right?
I think that would just be a draw. Maybe you can go queen e2 to hit your knight and go queen e7 check.
This is a nice idea because actually king g7 could have been met by knight g4. Ah. But is he going to sack e1? No, he can't because it comes with check.
That was sneaky.
Yeah.
Queen b2. Play queen b2. Same idea, but now the knight's under attack.
It forces the queen trade, and suddenly black is actually playing for the win here. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little strong because c7 is falling. But
I thought king e7 could have been played instead of king g7, but no, white is definitely worse here. Knight b4, knight e5.
Knight e5 is winning the knight? No. He has a save with h6, but...
Well, now you're winning the d5 pawn, so black suddenly have 2 pawns. And
excellent defense, and a great way to end the match, honestly.
Is the time up?
I think so. If we...
Yeah.
Yep, time is up.
So hopefully for Dominguez, he can take this one, and well, then he'll end the match simply down how many games? 5?
Currently down 6, so he would end down 5, although now it looks like Maxime is going to be able to hold the draw with the rooks off the board.
Yep. This is looking like draw territory. But if you're Dominguez, don't give him a draw ever. Keep going.
Yeah, well, okay. I think he will now.
Yeah.
And it's a final instructive moment for everybody that in such an endgame, you have to keep the rooks on the board for any winning chances to create another target, create more weaknesses.
Wait a second. Is White going to win now?
What did he just do?
Oh, gosh.
Oh, my gosh. And he's scratching his head. That's a strange way.
We're talking about how it's a good way to end. That was a terrible way to end. That's very upsetting.
Yeah, rough. Well, we're going to bring the players on now. And get their thoughts. Maxime, Leinier.
I'm here.
Leinier, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear.
Well, to start the post-match questions, I have to ask one of the better questions we got from the chat. They want to know if you're ever going to give the Sebastian username to your son, or is he going to be forced to have a username of Leinier?
No, I mean, I'll try to teach him a bit, but I doubt that he will play chess.
Okay, so he doesn't play actively then.
No, he doesn't play. He will be 4 years old in November.
Okay, so he's almost over the hill already at 4 years old. So no point in teaching him now. But no, jokes aside, honestly, this was a really exciting match. The best back and forth battle we've really had at this point this year, and even though the final score was a little bit bigger, I think, than the match actually was, it was very close. And where did you feel the match you just got a little away from? Was it just the bullet, or were there some games in the earlier Blitz portions, Leinier, that you wish you could have had back?
No, I think, it was pretty close, pretty interesting until we got to the bullet. But I thought that I could get some chances, but he was playing really strong, and I didn't get chances at all.
Yeah. Well, there were a few openings you guys repeated and went back to. Maxime, you consistently went for this structure where black has the 2-on-1 on the queen side. You have the big center, and it didn't seem like you were getting a lot, but the bullet portion, you got a big win there. What were your thoughts, to ask some really specific chess questions about why you kept going back to that line, even though it felt like, other than the miss of bishop takes e6, and one of the first ones, that black was doing just fine?
Yeah, except I didn't think so. I think it just slightly better. But of course, in Blitz, it really doesn't matter whether you're better or not. And in a couple of games, I overpressed there, and of course that cost me. But I felt like it's principled.
Yeah, I was going to say, just your chess principles. You felt like you were better, and so you were just going to keep going back there until you figured out the right approach?
I'm not sure I ever figured the right approach, but who knows. Also, I was trying to keep the positions relatively under control for some time, and I was not really managing. But then, of course, in the bullet, things went a lot smoother, and
Got it.
Maxime, early in the match, you had that game where you went on like a Nigel Short king run. How big of a turning point was that for you when your position seemed, well...
That actually was a big turning point. I mean, I had done some nonsense. Basically gave a pawn for nothing, for no reason. And then I found this really nice idea. I mean, like the king coming to h5 and escaping there. So yeah, but to be fair, after f4, there's probably a lot of defensive options. But of course, I had this idea in mind after bishop takes f4.
Did you do any preparation? You guys had several games where you guys were just blitzing out openings and seemed not afraid to go into mainline theory. Leinier, that question's for you. Did you have specific openings you were trying to try against Maxime? There was the Spanish that was played a few times, and in the bullet portion, you opted for an Al Johan's defense a few times. Were those things you planned on before the match?
I didn't prepare like too deeply. I just thought about some options, like what we could play and so on. And yeah, I had my system with white knight, d4, knight f3, e3, so no need to prepare too much for that.
Yeah, and you played this early a5 shot, Maxime, a few times. What's the deal with that?
Well, that's actually not too good, but
well, Robert said it wasn't too good. So,
to be fair, I think it might be alright, but well, it's not easy to play. I mean, like you need more than 1 minute to play this kind of positions with black.
Yeah, I definitely agreed. I thought I didn't know what was going on there, but it looked a little bit shaky. But it turned out it worked out in several games there. I guess Maxime, since you move on to play Hikaru, how do you feel about that matchup in the second round?
Well, I mean, Hikaru is definitely the favorite from previous bad experiences. But well, there's a but. I will fight. I will try to give my best, and well, if my best is not enough, then at least I would have tried.
Well, what do you think, to stay on that, obviously not trying to belabor the point or beat the drum too much. We know Hikaru is, in many people's eyes, the favorite to win it all, but you have had good matches against him. Is it something where you feel that you need to get an edge in Blitz before the bullet portion, or is there something specifically, without revealing a secret sauce, that you might try to do differently against Hikaru this year?
Well, I think in general, like if we're talking over the board Blitz, I don't think Hikaru is better than me. He might be a bit more consistent, but I don't think he's better than me. But when it comes to online, Blitz, of course, is very dominant, and well, I'm probably far from being even top 5. So taking that into account, I mean, I'll need somehow to focus much more like this was a real online, over the board tournament, and make every game count. If I had to give because of course on the bullet portion I'm expecting not to be a favorite, so if I had to give a score, I need to be on, I would say +2 before the bullet if I want to have a definite chance.
Okay. Well, Leinier, I know the match didn't end the way you wanted to, but it as we said, it was obviously much closer to the final score in many ways, and your first Speed Chess Championship experience. You'll be back?
Yeah, for sure. It's been a good experience, and congrats to Maxime again. He played really well. I wish him good luck in the next match, and I think it was a nice experience overall, so thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. Thanks to all the fans who've been with us. Thanks for all the donations to the prize fund. And we appreciate everyone tuning in. Obviously, this has been super exciting, and we hope to see you back on August 7th, where Nepomniachtchi will be taking on Grisha. So if you didn't know what you were doing next Tuesday, you've got a long day of chess with the next Speed Chess Championship match, followed by the Title Tuesday happening right after it, actually. So tune in right there for the 6 versus 11 matchup with Nepomniachtchi versus Grishuk. And to our players, we say thank you again. And we'll see Maxime in the next round. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.